Story 1. My GF said, "You don't get to know what happens on this trip. Period. That's why I'm blocking you until I get back. So don't annoy me." I didn't react. When she came back, she was smiling, expecting me. But she wasn't ready for who stood there instead. Sup Reddit, 31 male. Never thought I'd be the guy posting one of these stories. But here we are. Let's just say when my girlfriend, 28 female, told me I'd be blocked for 5 days on her girls' trip, I didn't argue. I clocked in. I'm a private investigator by trade, and what I uncovered during that blackout wasn't just cheating. It was something much bigger, and when she came back, I made sure the truth hit her in the most unforgettable way possible. People hear private investigator and immediately picture me hiding behind dumpsters with a camera, trench coat, fedora, the whole movie thing. Reality check. It's not like that. Most of the time, it's boring paperwork, following people who are terrible at being sneaky, and then watching them prove themselves guilty in the dumbest ways possible. People think they're clever. They're not. If lying was an Olympic sport, most people wouldn't make it past qualifiers. I've been doing it long enough to get good at spotting patterns. The nervous laugh, the over-explaining, the casual contradictions, they stand out to me like neon signs. And I've always been fine with it. That's the job. But at home, I thought I was safe. Lana, my girlfriend of 3 years, was supposed to be the one part of my life where I could switch off the detective brain and just be. We lived in my house. Not our house. My house. I bought it, I paid it off with years of long nights, dumb risks, and jobs that nobody else wanted. But I let her make it feel like ours. It felt good to share space with someone I trusted. And trust was everything for me. In my world, trust is rarer than gold. I'd been burned before, both in work and in life. So when I gave Lana all of mine, I thought I was doing the right thing. Now, Lana had friends I never liked. The dupe Regina George squad. There was Kara, the leader, like some wannabe cheer captain who never aged out of high school mode. She was twice divorced but acted like those were badges of honor. Then Maddie, basically Kara's shadow. If Kara jumped off a bridge, Maddie would already be midair yelling Zame. And Chloe, the quiet one. But not the good kind of quiet. The calculating kind. The one who watches everyone else screw up and files it away for later use. Every time they came around, they treated Lana like their prize show dog, always reminding her how fun she used to be before she settled with me, the boring stable guy. Never mind that she hadn't had to worry about bills or car repairs since moving in, but I knew the drill. They wanted her back in their circus, not in my corner. Anyway, the big drama started when Lana announced her girls' trip, 5 days in Vegas. Supposedly just her and the Three Stooges, hitting the strip, living it up. I didn't love the idea, but fine. She needed time with her friends. I wasn't trying to be the controlling boyfriend. A few days before the trip, we're packing in the bedroom. I casually ask, "Hey, what flight are you on? And which hotel? Just in case something comes up." Seems harmless, right? Except she whips around like I asked for her social security number. Arms crossed, eyes narrow. "That's none of your business," she says. I actually laughed, thought she was messing with me. But she just stood there, dead serious. "What do you mean? I just want to know where you'll be in case of an emergency." And she snaps back with, "It's a girls' trip. You're not part of it. And I don't want you knowing where I am or what I'm doing. For once, it's about me having fun without you hovering." Then she drops the kicker. "You don't get to know what happens on this trip. Period. That's why I'm blocking you until I get back. So you don't annoy me." Blocked. Not, "Don't text too much." Not, "I'll be busy." Full-on blocked. As in, cutting me out of her life for 5 days like I was some creep she met once on Tinder? I just stared at her. My brain wasn't even mad yet. It was just processing. Because here's the thing. When you do my job, people throwing up walls is nothing new. And the one thing I've learned is you don't beat your head against the wall. You don't scream or beg or try to climb over it. You go around. So I didn't argue. I didn't give her the fight she wanted. I just nodded. Calm. "Okay. Have a great time." And I swear her whole face flickered for a second. She looked confused, like I just spoke a different language. She wanted me to explode so she could play the victim. Instead, I left her with nothing. Fast forward to the next morning. I dropped her at Kara's place. The plan was to carpool from there. She was all sunshine and fake excitement, snapping selfies in the car like it was prom night. Before she got out, she leaned in, kissed me quick, and said, "Don't miss me too much. I'll call you when I land so I can unblock you." I smiled back. "I won't." She laughed like I was joking. I wasn't. She rolled her suitcase up the walkway, waved without looking back, and disappeared inside. And me? I didn't drive home. I didn't go sulk on the couch. I drove straight to my office because the boyfriend had clocked out. And the investigator? Yeah, he just clocked in. Lana thought she was signing me up for a 5-day blackout. She didn't realize she had just handed me a green light. She gave me space, and I was about to fill it with more light than she could handle. The second she disappeared through TSA, I wasn't the boyfriend anymore. I was the guy who makes a living finding answers people would pay a fortune to keep hidden. She wanted a 5-day blackout? Cool. I was about to turn it into a 5-day highlight reel. First stop, my office. Nothing glamorous, just a modest setup with too many monitors, files stacked in piles that only I can understand, and a coffee maker that should have been retired in the 90s, but somehow still works. It's mine, and it's where the magic happens. I started where I always start, vehicles. I already knew Kara couldn't resist posting about anything, so I pulled up her page. Sure enough, there was the photo. 4 of them smiling like they were off to change the world, and behind them in the driveway was the SUV. I zoomed in, caught the plate number, and ran it through a database I probably shouldn't admit I have access to. Took about 30 seconds to get a hit. The car belonged to William Cole, senior partner at a big investment firm downtown, wife and 2 kids, the whole respectable family man package. The type of guy who wears a different Rolex for each day of the week. Interesting start. Lana had told me they were flying budget. Spirit Airlines or Frontier, something like that. Which didn't exactly line up with Mr. High-End SUV. So I dug deeper. Flight manifests are boring to most people, but to me, they're like puzzle pieces. I combed through every flight out of our city to Vegas that morning. No Lanas, no Karas, no Maddies, no Chloes, not even under maiden names or initials. Nothing. But then I spotted it. A private jet, owned by William Cole's firm, filed a flight plan from our airport straight to Las Vegas at the exact time their budget flight was supposed to be taking off. That was it. Puzzle piece number 2. Now, here's the part I actually enjoyed. I didn't need Lana to hand me a single clue. Blocking me wasn't just suspicious. It was basically an engraved invitation for me to start digging without worrying about covering my tracks. She thought silence would protect her. In reality, it freed me to turn up the volume. Still, I wasn't going to jump to conclusions. You can't just walk into court with my girlfriend acted shady and expect the judge to nod. Evidence, hard and clean. That's what I trade in. So I started cataloging. Plates, flight logs, timestamps. Every breadcrumb got a neat little folder on my desktop. Years of habit. The way I saw it, Lana wasn't just lying about her location. She was lying about the whole setup. Her girls' trip wasn't exactly sponsored by cheap flights and tourist buffets. No, this smelled like something bigger, something dirtier. And me? I was already a couple steps into the maze, and I could see the walls closing in on her. And if there's one thing I've learned in this job, it's that people always mess up. They can lie straight to your face, build this big, shiny cover story, even swear on their grandma's grave, but give it a few days, and they'll leave fingerprints all over the crime scene. And when you're dealing with people like Lana's friends, loud, shallow, addicted to posting every second of their lives, it's not a question of if they'll mess up, it's how badly. And these girls? They didn't just slip up. They practically gift-wrapped the truth and put a bow on it. Maddie was the MVP of dumb mistakes. Her whole social media page was wide open, like she wanted strangers to keep track of her life. If you sneezed near her, there'd probably be a selfie captioned, "OMG caught a cold, pray for me." That's the kind of attention junkie she was. So of course, within hours of touching down in Vegas, she started posting. First, there was the poolside picture, harmless to anyone else, 4 girls in sunglasses, colorful drinks in hand, big smiles. To me, it was basically a police lineup. I zoomed in on the reflection in Maddie's sunglasses. Clear as day, a guy was sitting at their cabana table. Not a random hotel guest either. He was right there with them. I leaned back, cracked my knuckles, and smiled. Amateurs. They always forget the little things. A few swipes later, she had uploaded a video of them dancing at some nightclub. Strobe lights flashing, music thumping so loud the phone mic was gasping for air. But I wasn't listening to the music. I was looking at Kara. She was leaning into a guy. Definitely not her ex-husband. Definitely not just a friendly chat. I slowed the video down, frame by frame, and caught his hand sliding onto her waist. People forget cameras don't lie. Then Chloe, the quiet one, finally posted. It was supposed to look classy, just a group dinner shot. 4 women all dressed up, smiling in front of a wall with this big abstract painting. Normal people scroll past. Me? I paused. That painting wasn't random decor. I ran it through a reverse image search. Less than 5 minutes later, I knew exactly where it was, hanging in the private dining room of a Wynn High Roller suite. Here's the thing. Those suites aren't open to tourists. You don't book them on Expedia. You get them if you're one of the casino's biggest whales, or if you're rolling with one. That was my smoking gun. I called in a favor from an old contact who works security out there. He owed me, so he checked. Sure enough, William Cole was in town that week, hosting clients. The suite was booked under his name, and he wasn't alone. 4 women were listed as guests. And yes, one of those names was Lana. So there it was. This wasn't a girls' trip, and this was a company-sponsored vacation. And Lana wasn't tagging along with her girlfriends. She was tagging along as part of the entertainment package. Now, I could have stopped there. I had enough to torch the relationship. But like I said, I don't deal in half-truths. I wanted the full picture, start to finish. And that's when I found the part that actually stung. Buried in one of Maddie's videos from a casino lounge, I caught Lana in the background. She was laughing, drink in hand, leaned close to some guy. The camera didn't catch his face clearly, just his profile. But something about the posture, the voice in the background, it clicked. I pulled the audio, cleaned it up with some software, and ran it against my database of voice samples. Long shot, but I had to know. The program spat out a match. Randy. Yeah, that Randy. Her ex-fiancé. The same guy she told me was a loser. The same guy she said had cheated on her and broke her heart. The guy she claimed she wanted nothing to do with ever again. And here he was, lounging in Vegas with her, on William Cole's dime. I just sat there, staring at the confirmation on my screen. All the lies unraveled at once. She didn't just block me for privacy. She blocked me so she could live another life for 5 days, one that included her rich married sponsor and the ex she swore was ancient history. I'd like to say I was shocked, but honestly, mostly I was impressed by the sheer amount of layers she stacked on the lie. A private jet, a rented suite, a married exec, 3 girlfriends running cover, and an ex-fiancé on the side. It wasn't just cheating, it was a full-blown circus. But here's the difference between me and a regular guy. A regular guy catches wind of this, maybe he blows up her phone, shows up screaming at the airport, or tries to beg her for answers. Me? I've made a career out of being patient, out of letting people trap themselves while I take notes. So, I didn't rage. I didn't drink myself stupid. I didn't text her some long essay about betrayal. I sat down, cracked my knuckles, and started planning. Because this wasn't just about catching her. This was about consequences. And if there's one thing I believe in more than trust, it's that actions should always get the ending they deserve. Lana thought she was being clever with her blackout. What she didn't realize is she had just given me the breathing room to turn her whole life into daylight. And daylight burns. That was the moment I knew Lana wasn't getting a quiet breakup or a cold shoulder. She was getting a full production. If she wanted the high drama of Vegas, I was going to hand her a stage she couldn't walk off. No yelling in the kitchen, no we need to talk conversation, where she could cry her way into sympathy. This was going to be public, undeniable, and permanent. The way I saw it, lies only really die when the truth walks them into a crowd. The first piece I had to line up was William Cole, the rich guy with the SUV, the jet, and apparently a side hobby of importing girlfriends' trips. Guys like him walk around thinking their bank account is a shield. Whatever happens, they can just throw cash at it until it disappears. But what cash can't do is rewrite a flight plan or scrub a Bellagio guest list. Those things are concrete, and I already had them locked down. So I built a file, clean enough to hand straight to a lawyer, plane logs, timestamps, photos of Lana and her crew in his suite, everything tied in a bow. Then I did my homework on his wife, Catherine, pediatrician, smart, respected, the kind of woman who thought her husband was out hosting clients, not paying for high-end escorts and training. I didn't send the file to her directly. That's not my lane. I sent it to one of the sharpest divorce lawyers in her city with a note. Your client might want to see this. Her husband's trips aren't what she thinks they are. That was enough to light the fuse. Then came Randy, her ex. The guy she swore up and down was history. The cheater who supposedly crushed her. Funny how that worked out. I wasn't surprised he was in Vegas with her, but I was annoyed at how deep the lie went. Still, I had options. Randy lived like he was untouchable. Real estate deals, fancy cars, always posting motivational quotes like he was the Wolf of Wall Street. But court records don't lie, and his were stacked with lawsuits and angry former partners. Money went missing, business deals turned to ash, and Randy acted like it was just bad luck. I knew better. I called up a journalist buddy who specialized in people like him, gave him a little breadcrumb trail. Developer, Vegas trips, money doesn't add up. Then I handed him Randy's name. It was like tossing bait into a tank of sharks. Randy didn't know it yet, but his empire was built on wet sand, and I'd just turned on the hose. That left Lana, and that part wasn't business. It was personal. She thought she was coming home to hugs and a boyfriend who bought her stories. Instead, I wanted her to walk into a wall of reality. That's where Krista came in. She was Randy's current girlfriend, the one who got the wellness retreat in Arizona excuse while he was off drinking cocktails with my girlfriend. It didn't take me long to track her down. Teachers don't exactly have secret identities. One school staff directory later, I had her number. Making that call wasn't easy. Try telling a stranger her boyfriend is in Vegas with your girlfriend. It doesn't roll off the tongue. But I laid it out straight. Sent her the pictures, the audio, the proof. At first, there was just silence. Then crying. Then, after a long pause, anger. Not the screaming kind. The cold kind. The kind that knows payback is the only option left. That's when I told her Lana's return flight and made the offer. She's expecting me to be there, but I think you should be the one she sees first. Krista didn't hesitate. She wanted in. Now, I wasn't dumb. You don't just throw two angry people in an airport and hope the fireworks land clean. If you don't control the stage, it turns sloppy, and I didn't want sloppy. I hired a private security contractor I trusted, ex-military part-time limo driver. He'd hang out in arrivals with a sign so he blended right in. His phone camera would stream everything back to me live, so I could watch it all unfold from the comfort of my office chair. Meanwhile, Krista would be in position with her ace in the hole, a massive poster-sized photo of Lana sitting at a blackjack table in the Bellagio High Roller Lounge, Randy's arm draped around her. The picture was crystal clear, courtesy of my contact in casino security. It didn't need a caption. Anyone with eyes would get the point. But I wasn't stopping there. Public humiliation is one thing. Legal consequences are another. So I lined up a process server. Not some guy in a hoodie, but a professional in a sharp suit. He'd step in right after Krista's reveal, call Lana by her full name loud enough for everyone to hear, and hand her the envelope. Inside, a formal eviction notice and a restraining order. 30 days to move out of my house. No more showing up at my office. No more let's talk texts. It was over, on paper and in public. By the time I finished laying this out, I had every angle covered. William was about to get blindsided by his wife's lawyer. Randy was about to be dragged through the press. Krista had the poster ready to go. My contractor had the camera ready to stream. The process server had the papers prepped. While she was off the grid, I'd already gotten an ex parte temporary restraining order and prepped a 30-day notice to quit. Any pickup of her stuff had to be scheduled through a neutral third party and supervised. No pop-ins, no drama. Lana thought she blocked me out for 5 days. She thought she had control. What she really did was give me the breathing room to build the stage where her double life would collapse right on top of her. And when that curtain dropped, she wasn't walking off with applause. She was getting buried under it. And the shovel was already in Krista's hands. Sunday afternoon rolled around, and Lana's flight landed right on schedule. I wasn't at the airport, of course. I had my contractor streaming everything back to me in crisp HD. My laptop was open, coffee in hand, like I was settling in for a pay-per-view event. And honestly, it felt like one. The feed showed the arrival hall buzzing with the usual crowd, families holding balloons, Uber drivers scanning phones, people sprinting to baggage claim like the carousel was giving out gold. Then came the four of them, Lana, front and center, dragging her suitcase, phone in hand, hair perfect. She was smiling so big you'd think she just came back from curing world hunger, not from lying her way through 5 days in Vegas. Behind her, Kara, Maddie, and Chloe were weighed down with shopping bags, all of them laughing like life was good. I sat back in my chair. Showtime. On screen, Lana scanned the crowd, clearly expecting to spot me waiting by the doors. Instead, her eyes caught Krista, calm, steady, standing dead center with a massive poster board in her hands. And not just any poster, this was the picture I had secured through my Vegas contact. Lana and Randy sitting together at the blackjack table, his arm wrapped tight around her shoulders, both of them laughing like a couple on vacation. The image was high res, crystal clear. No denials, no, that's not me, no bad angle. Lana froze mid-step. The grin evaporated. Her entire body just locked up like a computer hitting the blue screen of death. Her friends bumped into her from behind, confused, until their eyes followed hers and landed on Krista's poster. That's when their chatter died, like somebody hit the mute button. Krista didn't say a word at first. She didn't need to. She just stood there holding the photo, letting everyone around them connect the dots. And people did. You could see the whispers start, phones being pulled out, strangers pausing their reunions just to watch the slow-motion car crash unfold. Lana tried to recover. She gave this fake laugh, adjusted her hair, and veered like she was just going to walk past, pretend Krista was some random crazy woman. Bad move. Krista stepped forward, voice clear, calm, and cutting. Funny, Randy didn't fly home with you. That's because he's busy explaining this picture to me. That was it. Boom. The crowd went from whispering to staring. A bubble formed around them. Strangers glued to the scene, phones up recording every second. Lana's friends looked at her like they just realized the boat was sinking and none of them knew how to swim. Lana's face went pale. She tried to mutter something. Maybe, this isn't what it looks like. But before she could get a full excuse out, the second act began. A man in a sharp suit stepped forward. Not a cop, not airport staff, my process server. He had the envelope tucked under his arm and a voice that carried across the hall. Lana? He said loud enough for everyone within 30 feet to hear. Lana whipped her head toward him, stunned. She barely managed a nod. You've been served, he said, handing her a packet, a court-stamped temporary restraining order, and a notice to quit. 30 days. It spelled everything out. No contact, no showing up at my place, and any property pickup would be scheduled through a neutral third party, supervised within the notice period. Over, on paper, and in public. She just stared at it, hands shaking, then dropped her bags right there on the airport floor. The poster, the crowd, the papers. It was too much all at once. She covered her face with her hands and started sobbing. The kind of crying that isn't for pain, but for humiliation. And her ride-or-die girlfriends? Yeah, they weren't about to ride or die for anything. Kara grabbed her suitcase and bolted. Maddie pulled out her phone like she was texting an Uber before the dust even settled. Chloe just looked around, panicked, then slinked into the crowd. Rats leaving a sinking ship. The live stream caught every second. Lana, surrounded by her designer bags, crumpled on the floor of an airport while strangers recorded her disgrace for their Snapchat stories. Krista holding the photo like a trophy, expression stone cold. The process server walking off like it was just another day at the office. And me, miles away, sipping stale coffee, watching the woman who thought she could block me for 5 days learn what real blocking looked like. By the time my contractor ended the feed, I didn't feel rage or heartbreak. I felt closure. Clean, sharp, undeniable closure. Lana thought she was untouchable. Instead, she got buried under the weight of her own lies in front of 100 strangers and 3 so-called friends who couldn't ditch her fast enough. That was the funeral. No casket, no flowers, just a public burial of the double life she thought she could keep hidden. But funerals don't end at the grave. They echo. And when Lana's world hit the floor in that airport, the shockwaves spread fast. What she didn't realize in that moment was that I'd already set the dominoes up. All I had to do was watch them fall. The first domino to crash was William Cole. His wife Catherine didn't waste a second. By Monday morning, she was sitting in a divorce lawyer's office with the file I had anonymously delivered. She didn't scream or throw dishes. She acted like a surgeon. Clean cuts. She filed immediately and locked down assets. Catherine had a prenup that gave her the right to move money into a trust for her kids if William ever cheated, and she executed it like she'd been waiting for this day. Millions of dollars shifted out of William's reach before he even unpacked his luggage. And the news? Oh, it spread. His firm's board got wind of it, and suddenly, family man partner didn't fit their branding. They couldn't fire him overnight, but the pressure was there. Whispers, meetings behind closed doors, colleagues avoiding his calls. William was still walking into the building in a tailored suit, but everyone knew it was borrowed time. Kara didn't escape either. Remember, she was in half those photos with him, hanging off his arm like she was auditioning for a reality show. Catherine's lawyer made sure her name got listed in the court filings. Public record. You can imagine how that played out in her social circle. She went from self-proclaimed queen bee to radioactive. None of the wealthy guys she chased wanted to be associated with the woman in the divorce papers. She'd built her whole identity around being the ringleader, and now she was toxic. Then there was Randy. My journalist friend had taken the tip I gave him and chewed through it like a pit bull. By Wednesday, there was a full article in a business section calling him out. Headline basically boiled down to, local developer lives large while investors foot the bill. And the Vegas trip? It got mentioned. Suddenly, his lawsuits weren't just court filings nobody cared about. They were front-page gossip tied to pictures of him drinking with women in casinos. His business partners saw it, lawyers saw it, hell, even his tenants probably saw it. Randy went from wannabe tycoon to cautionary tale overnight. Lawsuits piled on harder, and talk of criminal investigation started circling. Krista wasn't wasting her time either. With my help, she started preparing her own legal action against him for financial damages. She wasn't just mad, she was focused. I gave her the blueprint, she gave him the wrecking ball. And then there was Lana, the star of the airport funeral. She had no boyfriend, no home, and no allies. Her friends abandoned her at baggage claim. Her so-called exciting Vegas adventure turned into a highlight reel of her humiliation. By the time she called her parents to come pick her up, she was already stripped bare. 30 years old, crying into her dad's passenger seat, clutching an eviction notice. From living in a house she didn't pay for, to sleeping in her childhood bedroom under posters she probably hung in high school. Reset to zero. Of course, she tried to reach me. Burner phones, fake email accounts, even a new number she got through her job. Every message was some variation of, "We need to talk. You don't understand. Please hear me out." But I didn't respond. I had my lawyer send her a cease and desist letter, reminding her about the restraining order. Clean, cold, done. Her friends tried too. Kara claiming she had no idea what was going on. Maddie saying she was lied to as well. Chloe pretending she was innocent because she didn't post as much. They all wanted to rewrite history now that the grenade had gone off. I ignored them. They weren't victims. They were accomplices who bailed the second the heat got too real. Meanwhile, I spent the week erasing Lana from my life like she'd never existed. I photographed and inventoried her belongings, boxed them, and put everything in a short-term storage unit. Through my lawyer, I sent her and her parents 2 supervised pickup windows at the storage office within the 30-day notice. She was listed as an authorized pickup. The manager would hand it over during the slot. After the notice period ended, I changed the locks and closed the book. Number changed, accounts updated, photos nuked, ghost protocol, and watching it all from my office, I won't lie, it was satisfying. Not in a Hollywood hero wins way, more in a methodical, this is what happens when you play stupid games way. Every move had landed exactly how I planned it. William was cornered, Randy was drowning, Kara was toxic, Krista was armed, and Lana? Lana was just a name on a restraining order, sobbing into her pillow in her parents' house. She thought she could have it all, the security of me and the thrill of someone else. She thought blocking me for 5 days was a clever little loophole. But what she never understood is that in my world, lies don't just get exposed. They get documented, filed, and weaponized. She gave me space, and I turned that space into a firing range. And every shot hit. Anyways, 6 months have passed since the airport. Half a year feels like forever when you're living it. But looking back, it went by in a blur. The chaos, the drama, the wreckage, it all settled into silence. And in that silence, I started building something new. The fallout from those 5 days didn't just disappear, it calcified into permanent changes for everyone involved. William Cole's divorce finalized 2 months ago, and it wasn't pretty. Catherine played her cards perfectly. Armed with my evidence, she drained what she could into the kid's trust, then bled him dry in court. William lost the house, a chunk of his fortune, and eventually his job at the firm. The board pushed him out quietly, claiming restructuring, but everyone knew the truth. He's not blacklisted, but his reputation is radioactive. A man who once strutted into rooms now avoids eye contact. Kara ended up as collateral damage. Her name showing up in those filings turned her into a social pariah. She tried to act like nothing happened, but high society is built on whispers, and once whispers become fact, doors close fast. The wealthy guys she used to orbit treat her like she's contaminated. Her queen bee status? Gone. Now she's just another hanger-on trying to find relevance in circles that won't have her. Randy's world collapsed the hardest. The article about his shady deals triggered an avalanche of lawsuits, and the investigation snowballed. He went from smug developer to defendant in record time. Civil suits drained him. Criminal charges might follow. Krista left him for good and, with my guidance, filed her own claims to recover damages. He thought he was untouchable. Now he's barely holding on to the scraps. Lana's story is quieter. After the airport, she spent weeks hiding in her parents' house, then scraped together enough for a small apartment. Last I heard, she found a modest job, something that barely covers rent. Her friends never came back. The social life she clung to? Dead. No more Vegas trips, no more glamorous posts. Just silence. And for someone like her, silence is the worst punishment. She did reach out one last time. Not through a call or a burner text. She learned those get intercepted. 2 months ago, I received a letter, forwarded through my lawyer. Handwritten, multiple pages. It wasn't the usual "you misunderstood" garbage. She didn't ask for another chance. She didn't make excuses. She just owned it. She admitted the blocking, the lies, the blackout. It was all her way of juggling the stability I gave her with the thrill she craved. She said the airport was the worst day of her life, but also the first time she actually saw herself for what she was, someone who valued attention more than love. She wrote that she's in therapy, trying to fix herself, and maybe one day become a person she doesn't hate when she looks in the mirror. She ended it by saying she didn't expect forgiveness, but wanted me to know she was sorry. I read it once, folded it up, and put it in a drawer. For the first time since this started, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel smug satisfaction either. Just closure. Some things break, and no matter how much glue you use, they never go back the same. That's what our relationship was. Shattered glass. As for me, my life didn't just bounce back, it got better. Krista and I kept in touch after the airport. Two people who'd both been burned in the same fire found common ground. At first it was coffee, then dinners, then more. We didn't talk about Vegas, not much. Instead, we talked about families, work, dumb little things. Slowly, it grew into something real. Something built on honesty. Not fireworks, not chaos, just trust. And for me, trust is everything. It's not some Hollywood ending where I ride off into the sunset. But I don't need that. I've got peace. I've got a partner who doesn't lie about where she's going or who she's with. I've got a business that's thriving because I can focus without personal chaos in the background. And most importantly, I've got control of my own life again. Lana thought she was clever when she blocked me for 5 days. She thought it gave her space to live a double life. What it really did was give me time to strip everything down and build a wall she'll never climb over again. She gave me a blackout. I gave her permanence. 6 months later, the dust is gone, the noise has faded, and I've learned something important. Revenge doesn't fix everything, but it forces people who hide behind illusions to face the truth. At that airport, masks came off. The strong walked away stronger, and the liars got buried under their own weight. I don't think about her anymore. And that's the biggest win of all. Story 2. This story is titled, "My Wife Ridiculed My Masculinity at Her Office Party, but She Cried When I Left with Her Boss's Respect and New Career." Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. So, I 34 male, just your average dude who's been grinding away at the same IT support job for the last 8 years. Nothing special, but it pays the bills. I met my wife Sarah, 32 female, back in college, when I was actually on track for something better. I had dreams of becoming an architect, had real talent for design according to my professors, but life happens, you know. Sarah was this ambitious marketing major who always talked about climbing the corporate ladder. When we graduated, she landed this entry-level position at BlackRock Marketing, one of those trendy firms with the exposed brick walls and kombucha on tap, while I took a temporary IT job to support us while she established her career. Somehow temporary turned into 8 years of my life. I'm not complaining. At least I wasn't back then. I thought we were a team. She'd always tell me, once I make senior account manager, we can focus on your career goals. But that promotion came and went. Then the next one. And somehow my dreams kept getting pushed to maybe next year. I was making decent money, but nothing compared to what she was pulling in once she started moving up. And she never let me forget it. Our apartment was filled with stuff she picked out. My gaming PC was relegated to a tiny corner of the spare bedroom she called her home office, even though she barely used it. When I tried to hang some of my old college architectural sketches, she said they didn't match our aesthetic and replaced them with generic abstract art from some overpriced boutique downtown. So I'm standing there adjusting my tie for like the 5th time in our bathroom mirror, getting ready for Sarah's annual office party. Not just any party. This was the first one since she'd been promoted to Director of Client Relations. My stomach was in knots. These corporate things always made me feel like an imposter. "Mike, are you seriously still getting ready?" she called from the bedroom, that little edge in her voice that made me feel about 2 inches tall. "We can't be late. Jordan Billings will be there. He's the CEO, remember? I've told you like 1,000 times." "Almost done," I replied, smoothing down my new suit. The one I dropped $800 on, just so she wouldn't give me that look she always did when I wore my old one. That, "my husband is such a project" look she'd shoot to her friends when she thought I didn't notice. The whole drive there, she kept coaching me like I was a child. Remember to mention your project management certifications if anyone asks what you do. And please try to be more assertive than last time. You just stood in the corner like a statue. Each suggestion felt like a tiny paper cut. Small but painful. And don't bring up that Star Wars crap you're always talking about. Nobody cares about your theories on whatever those wizard people are called. Jedi, I corrected automatically, immediately regretting it when I saw her roll her eyes. Whatever. Just try to seem interested in marketing for once. I just nodded and promised to make her proud, like always. But inside, something was already shifting. I was tired. So damn tired of being the supporting character in the Sarah show. The event space was at some fancy hotel downtown. All glass and modern art with people who looked like they'd never eaten fast food in their lives. I recognized a few faces from previous functions, but mostly felt like a complete outsider. Like I was wearing a costume in some play I never auditioned for. Sarah quickly spotted her colleagues and pulled me along, her hand gripping my elbow so tight I thought it might bruise. "There's Kevin's group from marketing," she whispered. "Let me do most of the talking. Just smile and nod." Things went okay at first. I smiled when I was supposed to, laughed at inside jokes I didn't understand, and kept her sparkling water glass filled. Then her boss Ryan approached with Jordan Billings, the CEO, and I could literally feel Sarah's nails dig deeper into my arm. "Your quarterly numbers were exceptional," Jordan said to Sarah. "We need more of that killer instinct in the company. The way you handled the Miller account, brilliant." She was beaming like someone had just handed her $1 million. "Thank you, sir. I believe women need to push boundaries in this industry. We can't let the old boys club hold us back." She threw in that feminist angle she always used around her bosses, even though at home she'd make me kill the spiders and take out the trash because those were man jobs. Then the conversation shifted to some rock climbing retreat the company had organized. Several executives had participated, including Sarah. "Your wife was fearless on that cliff face," Ryan remarked to me. "What about you? Do you share her adventurous spirit?" Before I could even answer, Sarah let out this fake laugh she always uses when she's trying to impress someone. "Mike? Oh God, he gets vertigo standing on a stepladder. I'm definitely the risk taker in our marriage. He's more of a support person." A few chuckles rippled through the group, but I felt my face burning with humiliation. The CEO smiled politely. "Nothing wrong with being cautious. Different strengths and all that." But Sarah wasn't done. "It's beyond caution," she continued, completely oblivious to how uncomfortable I was feeling. "Remember when we had that mouse in the apartment last month?" She pantomimed trembling, and everyone laughed harder. "He stood on the kitchen table screaming until I got home to deal with it." I took a huge sip of my sparkling water, wishing I could just disappear. That wasn't even how it happened. The mouse had startled me, and I jumped, but her version made me sound pathetic. "And when we go camping, he won't sleep without an air mattress and insists on staying at sites with full bathroom facilities. Not exactly the rugged outdoorsman." She looked around at her colleagues. "I swear, sometimes it's like having another child instead of a husband. But he's so good with computers." She patted my arm condescendingly. Jordan's expression changed. His eyes shifted to me with what looked almost like sympathy. Ryan cleared his throat, obviously sensing the conversation had gone too far. "Actually," Ryan intervened, "I was talking with Mike earlier about his architectural hobby. Those 3D designs he showed me were impressive. I hadn't mentioned any architectural hobby. I didn't even know Ryan knew my name until that moment. But I recognized he was trying to rescue me, and felt this weird connection with this guy I barely knew." Sarah looked confused. "Architecture? He doesn't— Perhaps you could send me some of those renderings," Ryan continued smoothly, cutting her off. "I've been thinking about redesigning my lake house." The conversation moved on to vacation properties, but the damage was done. I stood there feeling like my soul had left my body. I was just an empty suit, nodding and smiling while inside I was screaming. I'd spent the last 8 years of my life supporting this woman, and she couldn't even grant me basic dignity in front of her colleagues. For what? So she could seem more impressive by comparison? The worst part was that I knew she'd expect me to laugh about it later. "Oh, come on, I was just joking around. Don't be so sensitive." I excused myself to get some air, walking out to this big balcony where the cool night breeze did absolutely nothing to stop the burning humiliation inside me. I stood there, staring at the city lights below, suddenly seeing everything clearly. The woman I married had just used me as the punchline to boost her own image at work, and it wasn't even the first time. Years of small comments and subtle put-downs suddenly crystallized into this painful pattern I'd been ignoring. I wasn't just the butt of tonight's jokes. I was the designated loser in the narrative she'd constructed about our relationship. "Gets old, doesn't it?" I turned to see Ryan standing in the doorway, 2 bottles of sparkling water in hand. He offered one to me. Thought you might need this. I accepted with a nod, grateful for both the drink and the lack of pity in his expression. Thank you. And thanks for the imaginary architectural hobby. He leaned against the railing beside me. My ex-wife did the same thing at every company event. Made me the punchline to all her stories. Dave can't cook to save his life. Dave got lost driving to his mother's house. Dave couldn't figure out how to use the washing machine. He took a sip of his water. After our divorce, I found out she'd been seeing her personal trainer for 6 months. Best thing that ever happened to me. We stood in silence for a moment. Listen, he said finally. I don't know you well, but I recognize self-respect walking out of a room. That takes more courage than impressing a bunch of corporate drones who'll forget about this party by Monday morning. I didn't know how to respond, so I just nodded. For what it's worth, he continued, I've been in this business 20 years. The people who last aren't the ones who build themselves up by tearing others down. That strategy always backfires eventually. He swirled his water. And between us, Sarah's promotion isn't as solid as she thinks. Jordan's been asking questions about that Miller account. I looked at him, surprised. What do you mean? Ryan shook his head. Just that the numbers don't quite add up. Nothing I can discuss in detail, but he trailed off, then changed the subject. So, did you really study architecture? I nodded. Yeah, back in college. Had to drop out my senior year when my dad got sick. Medical bills wiped out the college fund. I was going to go back, but then Sarah's career took off, and it just never seemed like the right time. Ryan nodded thoughtfully. Funny how we put our dreams on hold, thinking it's temporary, and then wake up one day to realize years have passed. Yeah, I agreed, feeling a lump in my throat. Funny. The balcony door opened and Sarah appeared. She was clearly irritated, but trying to hide it with fake cheerfulness. There you are. Everyone's wondering where you went. Her eyes darted between me and Ryan, narrowing slightly. Is everything okay? Just getting some fresh air and having a fascinating conversation, Ryan replied before I could speak. Mike was telling me about his background in architectural design. Really innovative perspectives. Another fictional interest. But this time it felt different. Less like a rescue and more like potential. We should get back inside, she said to me, her smile not reaching her eyes. Jordan's wife was asking about you. Actually, I said, finding my voice at last, I think I'm going to head home. Her smile vanished. What? You can't leave now? We've only been here 2 hours. I'm not feeling well. It wasn't entirely a lie. My stomach had been churning since her performance inside. Don't be ridiculous, she hissed, stepping closer and lowering her voice. This is important for my career. You can manage a few more hours. Stop being so sensitive. Ryan cleared his throat. Perhaps I should give you two a moment, he said, but made no move to leave. No need, I replied, setting down my water bottle. I've ordered an Uber. It should be here any minute. I hadn't, but I would as soon as I got downstairs. This is so typical, Sarah said, her whisper sharp enough to cut glass. The one time I need you to be supportive, you're running away because your feelings got hurt. I swear, men are so fragile sometimes. Something shifted inside me then, a quiet certainty replacing the confusion and hurt. I straightened my shoulders and looked directly at Sarah. I've supported you through 3 promotions, 2 career changes, and countless late nights at the office. I've attended every function, remembered every colleague's name, and never once complained about being left alone at holidays when you had to work. I put my own dreams on hold for 8 years while you built your career. I took a breath. But tonight, you didn't ask for my support. You used me as a prop to make yourself look better. Her face flushed. You're overreacting. It was just harmless joking around. Was it? I asked quietly. Because from where I'm standing, it felt like you were telling everyone that your biggest accomplishment was succeeding, despite being married to such a pathetic loser. Her gaze faltered, dropping to the floor. And in that moment, I saw something I hadn't been looking for. Insecurity disguised as confidence. Fear masked as ambition. I'm going home, I repeated, gentler this time. We can talk tomorrow. As I turned to leave, Ryan extended his hand. Good meeting you properly, Mike. Hope you feel better soon. I shook his hand, surprised by the firm grip and the business card he smoothly passed to me. Call me if you'd like to grab coffee sometime, he said. I mean it, about those designs. The apartment was quiet when I returned. I shed my suit, the expensive costume I'd worn to fit into her world, and stood in the shower until the hot water ran cold, letting it wash away the evening's humiliation. Sleep didn't come easy. I laid awake replaying years of subtle undermining. The way she'd interrupt me when I talked about stuff I was interested in, how she'd roll her eyes when I suggested vacation ideas, the constant little improvements she wanted to make to my appearance, my speech, my hobbies. Like the time I'd spent months building a custom gaming PC, and when I finally got it running perfectly, she'd said, "That's nice, honey. Maybe now you can focus on something productive." Or when I'd excitedly shown her a sketch I'd drawn of our dream house, and she'd replied, "It's cute that you still think about that stuff." Morning brought clarity instead of reconciliation. Sarah hadn't come home. A text message at 6 a.m. told me she'd stayed at Jen's place because she didn't want to continue the argument while emotional. Translation: she was avoiding the consequences of her actions. I called in sick to work, something I rarely did, and spent the day in this weird limbo between anger and possibility. I dug out my old architectural sketches from college, the ones Sarah had deemed not matching our aesthetic, and spread them across the dining table. They weren't half bad, especially the urban renewal project that had won me departmental recognition. By afternoon, I found myself staring at the business card Ryan had slipped me. After hesitating for an hour, I finally sent a text. "This is Mike from last night. Taking you up on that coffee offer if it still stands." His response came quick. "Good to hear from you. 3 p.m. at Steel Bean downtown?" The coffee shop was upscale but not pretentious. Ryan was already seated in a corner booth when I arrived, dressed casually in jeans and a button-down. "Thanks for meeting me," I said, sliding into the seat across from him. "Though I should probably confess I've never shown you any architectural designs." He laughed. "I figured as much, but I wasn't entirely making it up. Sarah mentioned once that you studied architecture in college. Said it was cute that you thought you could make it in that field. That stung. I'd never told her it was cute when she failed at her first 2 marketing jobs." "Yeah, well, it was more than cute to me," I said, pulling out my phone and showing him some photos I'd taken of my old college projects before I left the apartment. I was on track for internships at some decent firms before life happened. Ryan scrolled through the images, his eyebrows raising slightly. "These are actually good. Really good. The spatial awareness, the integration with the surrounding environment. You had a genuine talent." The conversation flowed with surprising ease. He wasn't just being polite or feeling sorry for me, he was genuinely interested in who I was. As we talked, I found myself sharing things I'd kept buried: my abandoned passion for architectural design, the small business plan I'd shelved when Sarah's career took priority, my growing sense of having lost myself in the shadow of her ambition. "So all this time, you've just been putting your dreams aside while supporting hers?" Ryan asked. "I guess I thought that's what marriage was," I admitted. "Compromise. Sacrifice. I figured my turn would come eventually." "Compromise should go both ways," Ryan pointed out. "When was the last time she sacrificed something for your dreams?" I couldn't answer that, because the truth was, she never had. "Why did you really ask me here?" I finally questioned after a second coffee. "Corporate loyalty would suggest you should be taking her side." He considered this, tapping his fingers thoughtfully on the table. "Corporate loyalty is overrated. Human decency isn't. What I saw last night wasn't someone building up a team. It was someone stepping on another person to appear taller." He paused. "Plus, I recognized something in you that reminded me of myself 15 years ago. Sometimes people need a nudge to remember who they are." Before we parted, he made an unexpected proposition. "My team's working on a new downtown development project, mixed-use building with residential and commercial space. Given your background in architecture, would you be interested in reviewing some of the preliminary designs? Fresh eyes can spot things we've missed, and it might be therapeutic." I was stunned. "I don't have any professional qualifications. My design experience is theoretical at best." "Sometimes theoretical is exactly what we need. No pressure. Just take a look and give me your honest thoughts." He slid a thumb drive across the table. "Use a new email address to send feedback. This is under the radar. I don't need Sarah knowing I'm consulting with her husband." That evening, after Sarah returned with a carefully rehearsed apology that included phrases like "work stress" and "didn't mean to embarrass you," but never actually acknowledged what she'd done, I sat down at my long-neglected desk and plugged in the drive. The designs were ambitious, a blend of modern and historical elements that would transform a neglected corner of downtown. I lost myself for hours, examining renderings, making notes, sketching alternatives. For the first time in years, I felt my mind fully engaged, neurons firing with creative energy that had too long been dormant. I barely noticed when Sarah came in, hovering uncertainly at the threshold of our home office. "What are you working on so intently?" she asked, her voice carefully neutral. I didn't look up. "Just a project?" She moved closer, trying to see the screen. "Work project? Since when does IT support need architectural renderings?" I closed the laptop, feeling a strange new boundary forming between us. "It's personal." Her face registered confusion, then concern. "Personal? What does that mean?" Her eyes narrowed. "Are you talking to someone else?" The implication was clear. In her mind, the only personal project I could have would be an affair. She couldn't even conceive of me having independent interests or goals. I'm exploring some possibilities, I said vaguely, enjoying for once being the one with information she wanted. She hovered for another minute, clearly expecting me to elaborate, but I stayed silent. Finally, she retreated, and I realized something had fundamentally shifted. The apartment felt different, not because she had returned, but because I was no longer the same person who had left for the party 2 nights ago. I reopened the laptop and began drafting an email to Ryan, signing it with my name followed by architectural consultant. The title was aspirational rather than factual, but for the first time in years, the gap between the two didn't seem unbridgeable. 2 weeks passed in a strange new domestic rhythm. Sarah walked on eggshells around me, overcompensating with forced cheerfulness and sudden interest in my day. I remained polite but distant, spending evenings working on the development project rather than watching mindless television beside her. The email I'd sent to Ryan had led to a flurry of exchanges, my suggestions sparking genuine interest from the design team. What began as a courtesy review had evolved into meaningful consultation, with several of my ideas incorporated into the revised plans. "They're implementing your courtyard concept," he texted one morning. "The team wants to meet the mystery consultant, 1 p.m. tomorrow." I stared at the message, equal parts thrilled and terrified. This was no longer just therapeutic distraction. It was becoming real. "I'm not qualified for an actual meeting," I replied. His response came immediately. "Neither were half the successful people I know when they started. 1 p.m. at the office. Business casual. I'll meet you in the lobby." That evening, I mentioned casually to Sarah that I had lunch plans downtown the next day. "Oh? With whom?" She tried to sound merely curious, but I caught the sharp edge of suspicion. "A potential client," I answered. Not quite lying, but not elaborating that her boss was my contact. "A client for what?" she asked, setting down her fork. I looked up from my plate. "I'm exploring some consulting opportunities in architectural design." Her fork paused halfway to her mouth. "Since when are you interested in architecture? And what kind of consulting?" "You don't have certifications." "I've always been interested in architecture," I said quietly. "We talked about it when we first met. I showed you my sketches." "That was a hobby," she dismissed. "You can't just suddenly decide to call yourself a consultant." "Actually, you can," I replied, "especially when people value your input." I closed my laptop and stood up. "I need to prepare for tomorrow." I could feel her staring at my back as I walked away, trying to process this new version of her husband, one who had interests and ambitions beyond supporting her career. The next morning, I dressed in my best business casual outfit, not the suit she'd picked out for me, but clothes I actually felt comfortable in. As I was about to leave, Sarah appeared in the doorway. "Who exactly are you meeting with?" she demanded, no longer hiding her suspicion. "A development team interested in my design perspective," I replied, grabbing my portfolio, the one I'd spent all night putting together, complete with my old college work and new ideas for the downtown project. "This doesn't make any sense," she insisted. "You work in IT. You've always worked in IT." "I worked in IT to support us while you built your career," I corrected her. "But that was never my passion. You knew that." As I headed for the door, she called after me. "Is this about the party? Are you trying to punish me?" I paused, my hand on the doorknob. "Not everything is about you, Sarah. This is about me reclaiming something I lost." The corporate headquarters was intimidating. 60 floors of gleaming glass and steel. I adjusted my blazer in the lobby, questioning my sanity for agreeing to this meeting. What did I think I was doing? Playing at being a professional in a world I didn't belong in? Right on time, Ryan appeared, greeting me with a firm handshake. "Ready to impress some people?" The meeting room contained 5 people, all dressed in that understated, expensive way that signaled serious success. My hands felt clammy, as I was introduced simply as the consultant who solved our courtyard challenge. "Walk us through your thinking," a gray-haired woman prompted, gesturing to the renderings projected on the wall. I took a deep breath and began explaining the issues I'd noticed with the original design, the shadowing problems at certain times of day, the wind tunnel effect the building orientation would create, the missed opportunity for green space that would increase property values and tenant satisfaction. As I spoke, my voice grew steadier. I fielded questions, sketched alternatives on the digital whiteboard, and found myself in a spirited debate about the merits of various materials. For 90 minutes, I forgot to be intimidated. I forgot I wasn't formally qualified. I just lost myself in the pure pleasure of creative problem solving. When the meeting concluded, the gray-haired woman, who turned out to be the firm's senior partner, approached me directly. "Your perspective is refreshing," she said. "Most consultants tell us what we want to hear. You told us what we needed to know." She handed me her card. We have another project breaking ground in 3 months. Would you be interested in a more formal arrangement? I felt dizzy with possibility. I would need to think about it, of course, but don't think too long, she smiled knowingly. Talent doesn't need credentials to be valuable. That evening, I was going through the meeting notes when Sarah returned from work earlier than usual. Something about her demeanor seemed off, a strange mix of anger and anxiety that raised immediate red flags. How was your meeting? She asked, her voice tight. Productive, I replied cautiously. Why? Imagine my surprise, she said, dropping her bag on the counter with a thud. When I was called into Jordan's office today to explain why my husband is suddenly consulting on the downtown project with my supervisor. And there it was. The moment of truth. I didn't realize I needed your permission to pursue professional opportunities, I said quietly. Don't play dumb, Mike. You deliberately kept this from me. Do you have any idea how this makes me look? Like I can't keep my own husband in line? Keep me in line? Those words hit me like a slap. Is that how you see our marriage? I asked, genuinely shocked. That I'm someone you need to keep in line? You know what I mean, she backpedaled. It just looks weird. People are talking. About what? That your husband might have talent and value outside of being your supportive spouse? That's not fair, she protested. I've always supported your interests. My interests, I repeated. Not my career, not my ambitions, my cute little hobbies that you could pat me on the head for. She threw up her hands. What do you want from me? I said I was sorry about the party. I had too much sparkling wine. I was trying to impress Jordan. I went too far. What more do you want? I want you to understand that this isn't about the party, I explained. The party just showed me clearly what I'd been ignoring. We built a relationship where your dreams were the priority, and mine were the sacrifice. I accepted that arrangement for so long that I almost forgot I had dreams of my own. She reached for my hand, but I stepped back, needing physical distance to maintain emotional clarity. What exactly are you doing with this project? She asked, her voice smaller now. Consulting on architectural elements of a downtown development. And they've asked me to consider a formal arrangement for future projects. Her eyes widened. You're not qualified. You never finished your degree. Apparently, talent and insight matter more than credentials to some people. Her tone shifted, becoming accusatory again. And Ryan arranged all this? Why would he do that? I shrugged. Maybe he recognized something in me. Maybe he just wanted to help. Or maybe he saw how I was treated and decided I deserved better. She flinched as if I'd struck her. So this is about punishing me? Embarrassing me professionally as revenge? Not everything is about you, I said quietly. This is about me rebuilding something I lost. It has nothing to do with revenge. Her anger resurfaced. You've been lying to me for weeks while meeting with my boss. How am I supposed to interpret that? I didn't lie. I just didn't volunteer information you never asked for. When did you last ask about my day, my interests, my ambitions? Not what you needed from me, or how I could support you, just who I am and what I want. She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again, realization dawning in her eyes. The next few days were tense. Sarah oscillated between fake supportiveness and passive-aggressive comments about my sudden career change, but something bigger was brewing. I could feel it in the way she'd furiously text during dinner or take hushed phone calls in the bathroom. One morning, about a week after my meeting with the design team, I received an urgent text from Ryan. We need to talk. Now, not on the phone. We met at a quiet cafe far from Sarah's office. Ryan looked grim. Sarah's trying to sabotage you, he said without preamble. She's filed a formal complaint with HR claiming I've engaged in inappropriate professional relationships by hiring her spouse without disclosure. My stomach dropped. Can she do that? Technically, there's no rule against hiring spouses of employees for consulting work, but she's spinning it as a conflict of interest and suggesting we only hired you to curry favor with her for the Miller account. That's ridiculous, I said, feeling betrayed all over again. She knows that's not true. Of course it's not true, but she's desperate. There's something else you should know. He hesitated. The Miller account numbers? The ones we've been questioning? Sarah's been manipulating the data to make her results look better. Nothing illegal, but definitely against company policy. Jordan was already planning to audit her work next month, and now she's trying to discredit you before that happens, I realized. Make it look like you're the one with professional ethics issues. Ryan nodded grimly. Exactly. What can I do? I asked. We need evidence that your hiring was based solely on merit. Your original email critiquing our designs. Did you send that from a personal account that Sarah doesn't have access to? I nodded. I created a new account like you suggested. Good. And your design suggestions predated any knowledge of the Miller account audit? I didn't even know about the Miller account issues until today, I confirmed. Ryan looked relieved. That helps. But there's another problem. Sarah's claiming you've been using insider information she brought home to gain advantage with the project. I felt sick. She's the one who never talks about work at home except to brag. I knew nothing about this project until you showed me. I believe you, but we need to prove it. I thought for a moment. She has a personal journal. She writes in it every night, all her professional victories and strategies. If she's been manipulating data, it might be in there. Ryan frowned. I can't ask you to invade your wife's privacy. It's my apartment too, I said firmly. And if she's trying to destroy my one chance at rebuilding my career just to protect her lies, I think I have a right to defend myself. That night, while Sarah was at her emergency yoga session, which I now suspected was a strategy meeting with her allies at work, I found her journal hidden in her underwear drawer. I felt a twinge of guilt as I opened it, but that vanished as I began to read. It was all there. Her deliberate manipulation of the Miller account data. Her strategy to keep Mike focused on supporting my career by discouragingly commenting on his architectural hobby. And most damning of all, entries from the past week plotting to discredit Ryan before he could expose her falsehoods. Ryan thinks he's so clever, using Mike against me, she'd written. But I'll make sure they both regret crossing me. I took photos of the relevant pages, my hands shaking with anger and betrayal. This wasn't just about the party anymore. This was about years of calculated suppression of my dreams to keep me as her supportive sidekick. The next morning, I sent the photos to Ryan with a simple message. Do what you need to do. 2 days later, all hell broke loose. Sarah came home in tears, her face blotchy with rage and humiliation. You bastard! She screamed as soon as she saw me. You went through my private journal? You gave my personal writings to Ryan? Do you have any idea what you've done? I remained calm. I know exactly what I've done. I defended myself against your attempts to sabotage my career, just like you've been doing for years. They suspended me, she shrieked, pending a full investigation of the Miller account. My reputation is ruined. Your reputation? I laughed bitterly. You mean the reputation you built by lying about your results and stepping on others? That reputation? She collapsed onto the sofa, suddenly shifting tactics. Tears flowed as she looked up at me with those manipulative eyes I once found irresistible. Mike, please, she begged. You have to help me. Tell them you misunderstood. Tell them I never meant to hurt your career. You know how important this job is to me. To us. To you, I corrected. It was only ever important to you. And you were willing to destroy my one chance at reclaiming my passion to protect your lies. I can fix this, she pleaded. I'll tell everyone how proud I am of your architectural work. I'll support your career change completely. We can move past this. I sat down across from her, suddenly feeling nothing but pity. Sarah, do you even hear yourself? Even now, you're only offering to support me because you need something. That's not how partnerships work. What are you saying? She whispered, fear replacing manipulation in her eyes. I'm saying I'm done being your supporting character. I've accepted a formal consulting position with the downtown development. I start next week. And us? She asked, her voice small. There is no us anymore, I said gently. I've already packed my essentials. I'm staying with a friend until I find my own place. You can't just leave, she cried, suddenly desperate. We can work this out. I'll go to therapy. I'll do whatever it takes. I shook my head. I've spent 8 years hoping you'd see me as an equal partner with my own dreams. It took you facing consequences for your actions to even offer that. And only because you need my help. That's not love, Sarah. That's just self-preservation. Her face hardened, the mask of vulnerability dropping away. Fine, leave. But don't think this is over. I still have friends at the company. They'll see through whatever lies Ryan fed them. They're not lies if they're backed by evidence, I reminded her. Your own words, Sarah, in your own handwriting. She stood up, her eyes blazing. You think this makes you some kind of man? Sneaking around behind my back? Going through my private things? You're nothing without me. Nothing. Who do you think paid for most of this apartment? Who kept us afloat when your pathetic IT job had layoffs 3 years ago? I picked up my duffel bag, surprisingly calm in the face of her rage. I guess we'll find out who I am without you. That's what scares you the most, isn't it? The idea that I might actually succeed on my own. As I reached the door, she called after me, her voice suddenly small again. Mike, please, I love you. I paused, feeling a strange mixture of sadness and freedom. I think you love the idea of me, the supportive husband who never challenges your spotlight, but that person doesn't exist anymore. The door closed behind me with a soft click that somehow felt more final than any slam could have. It's been 6 months since I walked out of that apartment and my old life. The downtown project is nearly complete, with my courtyard design becoming one of the development's signature features. I've been hired as a full consultant on 2 additional projects, and I'm taking night classes to finally complete my architecture degree. I wish I could say the transition was smooth, but Sarah didn't go down without a fight. She tried to turn mutual friends against me with stories about how I'd abandoned her during a minor work issue. She even showed up at my new apartment once, alternating between tears and threats. But the strangest part came 3 months after our separation, when the company's investigation was complete. Sarah was fired for data manipulation, and on her way out, she apparently had a complete meltdown in the lobby. According to Ryan, who witnessed the whole thing, she screamed that everyone would be sorry when she revealed the truth about the conspiracy against her. 2 days later, I received a desperate email from her. Mike, I need your help. They've destroyed my reputation in the industry. No one will hire me. I know I made mistakes, but I didn't deserve this. You know how hard I worked. Please, if you talk to Ryan, tell him I've learned my lesson. Tell him I deserve a second chance. I have nothing without this career. Please. I didn't respond. After 8 years of putting her needs first, I was finally focusing on my own path. Last week, I heard from a mutual friend that Sarah had to move back to her parents' house in Ohio. Her LinkedIn now lists her as a marketing consultant, which usually means unemployed. Meanwhile, the senior partner at Ryan's firm has offered to sponsor me for an accelerated architecture program that would complete my credentials within a year. Sometimes I feel guilty about how things ended. I never wanted revenge. I just wanted respect and the chance to pursue my own dreams. But then I remember all those years of subtle put-downs, the party humiliation, and her willingness to destroy my opportunity just to save herself. The guilt fades pretty quickly after that. The greatest revenge wasn't exposing her lies or watching her career implode. It was reclaiming my own potential, the part of myself I'd almost forgotten existed. And no matter what happens in my new career, I'll never again make myself small to make someone else feel big. If you're reading this and recognize yourself in my story, if you've been putting your dreams on hold while supporting someone who doesn't support you back, know that it's never too late to rediscover who you were meant to be. Sometimes the hardest part isn't fighting against others' perception of you. It's fighting against the limited version of yourself you've come to accept. Edit. Holy shit. This blew up overnight. Thanks for all the awards and supportive comments. To answer some common questions. 1. Yes, I did feel bad about going through her journal, but considering she was actively trying to destroy my career opportunity and had been manipulating me for years, I think it was justified. 2. No, I don't think all ambitious women are like Sarah. This isn't about gender. It's about one person using another as a stepping stone. 3. For those asking for pics of the courtyard design. Sorry, I'd rather not share anything that could potentially identify the project or company. 4. And yes, the divorce is in process. My lawyer says her attempts to claim half the value of my new consulting contracts won't hold up since they all came after separation. Thanks again for the support, Reddit. Sometimes you need strangers on the internet to confirm you're not crazy for standing up for yourself. Story 3. My dad texted coldly, I disown you. Talk to my lawyer. I replied, okay. Then I withdrew every dollar I was supporting them with. 48 hours later, my mom called in panic. Let me paint you the full picture, because the context matters for what comes next. I, 34 male, been working in business operations and process improvement since college. Grew up in Phoenix where my father, Marcus, built what became one of the largest construction supply businesses in the Southwest. Started in 1987 with a single truck and a rented garage, built it into a multi-million-dollar operation by the time I graduated from Arizona State. Growing up, I was always the analytical one. Straight A's through high school, studied industrial engineering in college, landed a management position at a major manufacturing company right after graduation. I specialized in operational efficiency, basically taking broken systems and making them profitable again. It's what I'm good at, and companies pay serious money for that skill. My younger brother Tyler was the complete opposite. 3 years younger, spent high school playing baseball and chasing girls. Never met a problem he couldn't charm his way around. Never met a responsibility he couldn't delegate to someone else. Dad always said Tyler had people skills and would be perfect for running a family business someday. I remember one specific incident from when we were teenagers that pretty much summed up our different approaches. Dad had asked us both to reorganize the garage workshop over a weekend. I spent Saturday morning creating an inventory system, labeling everything, and setting up efficient storage zones. Tyler spent Saturday afternoon rearranging tools based on what looked good, and then disappeared to hang out with friends. When Dad saw the results, he praised Tyler for making the space look professional while completely missing that my system had actually made everything functional and efficient. That was the pattern our entire lives. Tyler got credit for style. I got ignored for substance. The family dynamic was pretty clear from early on. Dad saw Tyler as his successor, and me as the smart kid who'd go make his fortune somewhere else, which was fine by me. I had my own career and my own life. Then Tyler met Jessica. He was 26, she was 22. They met at some upscale Phoenix nightclub. Jessica was everything you'd expect. Bleached blonde hair, designer everything, the kind of girl who'd never worked a day in her life, but somehow always had money for shopping trips. She took one look at Tyler's last name and the family business and made her move fast. I'll never forget the first time Tyler brought her to a family dinner. She spent the entire evening asking leading questions about the business. How many employees do you have? What's your biggest contract? Do you own all those trucks I see around town? When Dad mentioned they were looking at expanding into Nevada, her eyes literally lit up like she'd just heard about buried treasure. Within 6 months, she was pregnant. Within a year, they were married. Within 2 years, she had positioned herself as the modern voice the business needed and somehow convinced Dad to put her on the payroll. The pregnancy thing was strategic too. I'm not saying she planned it, but I am saying she made sure everyone knew about it immediately and started talking about securing the family legacy for the next generation before she was even showing. At their wedding, her maid of honor speech included a line about how Jessica was finally part of a family that builds things instead of just dreaming about them. Real subtle dig at her own working class background while positioning herself as essential to our family's future. I watched all this from a distance. I'd visit for holidays, help out with some of the business technology when Dad asked, but mostly I stayed focused on my own career. I was making good money, had my own house, my own life. The family drama wasn't my problem. Then 2019 happened and everything changed. The first sign of trouble came during Thanksgiving 2019. Dad looked exhausted, older than his 58 years. After dinner, he pulled me aside. Son, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. What do you think about the business? I'd been watching the numbers peripherally for months. Revenue was flat, expenses were climbing, and from what I could see, they were burning through cash reserves at an alarming rate. What's Tyler telling you? I asked. He says everything's fine. Says the construction industry is just going through a rough patch, but we're positioned well for when things turn around. That should have been my first red flag. The construction industry in Phoenix was booming in 2019. If they were struggling while everyone else was thriving, the problem wasn't market conditions. I pulled up their financial statements on my laptop. What I saw made my stomach drop. Labor costs were up 40% from the previous year, but revenue had only grown 8%. Their cost per delivery had doubled because Tyler had decided they needed premium service vehicles. Basically, he'd replaced their functional delivery trucks with expensive new ones that looked better but cost twice as much to operate. But it got worse. Tyler had also hired a fleet coordinator, some guy from his baseball league who got paid $45,000 a year to basically schedule which truck went where. This was work that their dispatcher had been handling perfectly fine as part of her existing duties. Inventory turnover was a disaster. They were sitting on $200,000 worth of materials that hadn't moved in 6 months because Tyler kept ordering based on gut feelings rather than actual demand data. I found orders for specialty concrete additives that only worked in temperatures below 40 degrees. In Phoenix. In summer. When I asked Tyler about it later, he said, "You never know when we might get a big job that needs that stuff. Better to have it ready." Tyler, this is for cold weather construction. We're in the desert. Exactly. Nobody else will have it, so we'll corner the market. There was no market. Nobody builds with cold weather additives in Phoenix because it never gets cold enough to need them. Worst of all, Jessica had somehow gotten herself a $75,000 salary as Director of Marketing and Communications. Her job description was maintaining their social media presence and building brand awareness in key demographics. I looked at her Instagram. Selfies and hard hats she'd obviously never worn, posed photos with construction equipment she couldn't operate, and promotional posts about family values and local business tradition. She had 1,200 followers, most of whom appeared to be other Phoenix social media wannabes. Her LinkedIn profile was even better. She'd listed herself as Strategic Marketing Executive, with expertise in digital brand development, customer relationship optimization, and multi-platform content creation. Her previous work experience? Freelance lifestyle consultant and independent brand ambassador. Dad, I said carefully, you've got some serious operational efficiency problems. Can you help us figure it out? I should have said no. I should have told him to hire a real business consultant and stayed out of it. But he's my father, and watching him stress about losing everything he'd built was hard. That was the beginning of the end, though I didn't know it at the time. I took 2 weeks of vacation in December 2019 to dive into their operations. What I found was worse than their financial statements suggested. Tyler had been making decisions based on what felt right rather than data. He'd signed a 3-year lease on a warehouse 60% larger than needed because it looked more professional. The extra space cost $4,000 monthly and sat empty except for Jessica's content creation area, a corner with good lighting for Instagram photos. He'd hired 6 friends from his baseball league at $18 to $22 an hour for work their existing team could handle with better organization. One hire was particularly memorable. Brad, the customer experience specialist, who called customers asking vague questions like, "How did everything go?" The customers hated it. One contractor told me, "Some guy keeps calling asking how my concrete pour went." I ordered gravel, not concrete, and that was 3 weeks ago. Tell him to stop calling me. Jessica's marketing had cost $30,000 in the past year. She'd hired a photographer, spent $8,000 on a website redesign that looked identical to the old one, and convinced Dad to sponsor a youth baseball charity golf tournament for $15,000 to connect with construction professionals. When I asked about the logic, her response was pure gold. Marketing isn't always about direct ROI. Sometimes you invest in community relationships that pay dividends over time. What dividends? Brand recognition. People see our name and associate it with community values. How many new customers did we get? That's not how marketing works, Michael. You can't reduce everything to simple metrics. We got 0 new customers. 0. Their inventory system was a disaster. They'd run out of common items while sitting on pallets of specialty materials that moved once yearly. Delivery scheduling was based on Tyler's daily mood. They were paying 30% above market rate because Tyler liked working with people he trusted. I spent Christmas break building them a proper framework. A 15-minute call with their concrete supplier saved $35,000 annually. They'd been asking Tyler about volume discounts for 2 years. When I presented the plan to Dad on January 2nd, he stared at the numbers for 5 minutes. This would save us almost $300,000 a year. Conservative estimate, probably closer to $400,000 once fully implemented. Do it, Dad said immediately. Whatever you need. I took 3 months unpaid leave and moved home. The inventory system took 6 weeks to implement. Staff training was an adventure. When I showed them the new routing system, their lead driver said, "You mean we don't have to zigzag across town 12 times a day anymore?" Tyler kept disappearing. Client meetings became 3-hour golf games. Supplier visits coincided with Phoenix Suns home games. Jessica was actively hostile. When I suggested managing social media internally, she delivered a 20-minute speech about brand consistency and building narratives that resonate with target demographics. I asked her to show correlation between marketing spend and customer acquisition. She said data was too simplistic to capture the holistic impact of brand development. They'd gained 12 new customers in 2019 with a $30,000 marketing budget. That's $2,500 per customer in an industry where average lifetime value was $8,000. By April 2020, the transformation was obvious. Delivery efficiency up 45%, inventory costs down 30%, customer satisfaction improved. The business was generating $35,000 more monthly profit. Dad called me his miracle worker. Tyler took credit for implementing new operational strategies. Jessica posted Instagram stories about family business innovation and dedication. In May 2020, Dad called a family meeting. I expected to discuss formalizing my role. Instead, I found Tyler and Jessica with printed presentations. Jessica wore a business suit I'd never seen and had slides about leveraging core competencies and optimizing human capital allocation. One slide was titled, "Strategic Organizational Realignment for Sustainable Growth." The bottom line, they wanted me in an advisory role while Tyler assumed operational control. Jessica would become Executive Vice President of Strategic Development with a $90,000 salary. Tyler needs to take ownership of the company he's going to inherit, Dad said. You've got your own career. Jessica smiled that fake corporate smile. Think of it as promoting you to strategic advisor. Then came the equity restructuring. Tyler gets 65% when Dad retires. I keep 15%. Jessica gets 10%. When I asked for reimbursement of my $150,000 investment and consulting fees, Dad said, "Family members don't charge family for help." That's when I realized they'd planned this from the beginning. Jessica's corporate presentation, Tyler's talking points, Dad's passive agreement. They'd orchestrated pushing me out as soon as I finished fixing their problems. I walked out knowing exactly what I was going to do. Here's what they didn't understand about the improvements I'd made to their business. When I rebuilt their operational systems, I didn't just reorganize their existing processes. I created entirely new infrastructure that ran through systems I controlled. Their inventory management system, built on software I'd licensed and configured through my consulting company. Their supplier relationships, negotiated through contracts that listed me as the primary contact. Their customer database, hosted on servers I paid for and maintained. Their delivery routing optimization, based on algorithms I developed and implemented through my own technology platform. Even their bookkeeping had been moved to a system I'd set up and managed through my business accounts. I hadn't just improved their business. I'd made their business completely dependent on infrastructure they didn't own. But it was all legal. When I'd started the project, I'd presented Dad with a consulting agreement that clearly outlined intellectual property ownership, system licensing, and termination clauses. He'd signed it without reading it because we trust you to handle the details. The agreement specified that if my consulting engagement was terminated, I retained ownership of all proprietary systems and had the right to revoke access with 30 days' notice. Tyler and Jessica had just terminated my engagement. I spent the weekend documenting everything. Every system I'd built, every relationship I'd established, every process improvement I'd implemented. Then I drafted a formal notice of contract termination and system access revocation. But I also did something else. I created detailed documentation showing exactly how much value I'd added to their business. Revenue increases, cost savings, efficiency improvements, all quantified and time-stamped. I calculated that my improvements had generated $420,000 in additional value in the 4 months since implementation. My time investment had been worth approximately $180,000 in consulting fees at market rates. My direct financial investment was $150,000. They owed me $750,000 in total value. They'd offered me 15% equity in a business I'd saved. Monday morning, I sent certified letters to all their major suppliers, notifying them that I would no longer be managing the relationship and that they should establish new points of contact for future business. I sent similar letters to their top 15 customers, explaining that due to organizational changes, I would no longer be overseeing their accounts, but that I was launching an independent consulting practice and would be happy to continue supporting their projects through my new company. The letter to customers was carefully worded. While I've enjoyed working with your projects through Marcus Construction Supply, I'm excited to announce that I'm launching an independent consulting firm focused on operational efficiency and project optimization. I'd welcome the opportunity to discuss how I can continue supporting your construction supply needs through this new venture. And then I changed every password, revoked all system access, and transferred their customer database to my personal servers. By 10 a.m., Tyler was calling me. What did you do? Nothing works? I terminated our consulting agreement, I said calmly. You said you were ready to take full control. You can't just shut everything down. It's my intellectual property. You wanted me out, so I'm out. This is sabotage. It's contract enforcement. You have 30 days to transition to your own systems, as specified in the agreement your father signed. Tyler was practically hyperventilating. We can't operate without those systems. You should have thought about that before you decided I wasn't valuable enough to keep around. That afternoon, I received a call from my attorney. Dad had contacted him demanding I restore access immediately. My lawyer reviewed the consulting agreement and called me back an hour later. They don't have a legal leg to stand on, he said. Everything you did is covered under the intellectual property clauses. They can demand all they want, but you're under no obligation to provide ongoing access to systems you developed and own. What if they try to sue? With what case? They terminated your consulting agreement and you're following the termination procedures they agreed to. If anything, they owe you money for early termination penalties. The next day, Jessica called me crying. Michael, please, you're destroying everything we've built together. Think about what this is doing to your father. I am thinking about it, I said. I'm thinking about how my father let you and Tyler push me out after I saved his business. I'm thinking about how none of you cared about family when you decided I wasn't worth keeping around. We never said you weren't valuable. Jessica, you literally presented a PowerPoint explaining why Tyler deserved credit for my work and why you deserved a bigger ownership stake than me. That's not what that was about. That's exactly what it was about. You wanted the benefits of my work without having to acknowledge my contributions. By the end of the week, they'd lost 3 major clients who decided to follow me rather than deal with Tyler's incompetence. The first month was beautiful to watch. Without my inventory management system, they couldn't track what they had in stock. Tyler ordered $60,000 worth of materials they didn't need while running completely out of items required for active projects. The first major screw-up happened within a week. A contractor called needing 200 bags of Portland cement for a foundation pour scheduled for Monday morning. Tyler confidently told them it would be delivered Sunday afternoon. Sunday came and they had no Portland cement in stock. Tyler had to make emergency calls to 3 different suppliers, paying premium rates for weekend delivery, just to fulfill a basic order they should have had on hand. The emergency procurement cost them $1,800 in additional fees and delivery charges for an order that should have cost $400. But Tyler spun it as going above and beyond for customer service. Their biggest client, Morrison Development, called me directly after Tyler quoted them $90,000 for a project that should have cost $50,000. "What's happening over there?" Morrison asked. Tyler seems to have no idea what anything costs. "Organizational transition," I said diplomatically. "I'm no longer with the company, but I'd be happy to provide you with accurate pricing through my new consulting firm." Morrison was one of Phoenix's largest residential developers. They'd been working with Marcus Construction Supply for 8 years, but they'd primarily dealt with me for the past 2 years because I understood their project timelines and material requirements. I got Morrison's contract and their referral to 3 other major developers. Jessica tried to maintain their social media presence, but without access to customer data or project information, she was posting generic content that had nothing to do with their actual business. She did a video tour of their warehouse, wearing a hard hat and safety vest, but you could tell she'd never worn either before because she kept adjusting them like they were uncomfortable costumes. The video was supposed to showcase their professional operations and safety standards. Instead, it showed Jessica stumbling over inventory she couldn't identify, mispronouncing technical terms, and accidentally knocking over a display of paint cans while trying to gesture dramatically at the camera. The video got attention, but not the kind they wanted. Comments ranged from, "Is this a joke?" to, "Who let the Instagram model into the construction site?" to, "This is what happens when you hire based on looks instead of qualifications." Jessica deleted the video after 6 hours, but not before multiple people had saved copies. One construction worker created a remix version set to circus music that got 15,000 views on TikTok. Tyler was bleeding money trying to rebuild what I'd taken. He hired an IT consultant who told him it would cost $80,000 to replicate my inventory management system. He hired a business process consultant who explained that recreating my supplier relationships would take 6 months and probably cost them their competitive pricing. The IT consultant's estimate was actually low. When Tyler saw the scope of work required to rebuild everything from scratch, he tried to negotiate a cheaper solution. "Can't you just build something simpler?" he asked. "Sure," the consultant replied, "but it won't do what Michael's system did. You'll lose about 60% of the functionality." What functionality do we really need? That question told me everything I needed to know about Tyler's understanding of what I'd built. He hired a marketing firm to professionalize their online presence. They charged $15,000 to basically copy what Jessica had been doing, except with better photography. Meanwhile, their operational efficiency was falling apart. Without my delivery routing system, their trucks were making half as many deliveries per day. Without my supplier relationships, they were paying 25% more for materials. Without my inventory optimization, they were sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff they couldn't use while constantly running out of basic supplies. The delivery problems were particularly painful to watch. I'd optimized their routes to minimize drive time and fuel costs while maximizing the number of stops per day. Tyler went back to the old system of whoever's available takes whatever order comes in next. This resulted in trucks driving across town multiple times per day, sometimes passing job sites they'd already visited to deliver materials they could have brought in one trip. Their fuel costs increased 70% in the first month. Dad called me 3 weeks after the transition. "Son, maybe we can work something out. Come back and we'll discuss a better arrangement." "The arrangement was that you were buying out my consulting contract," I said. "That's $150,000 plus penalties for early termination. The total is $220,000. We don't have that kind of cash available." "You had cash for Jessica's salary increase and Tyler's new truck last month? That's different." "No, Dad. That's exactly the same. You had money for the things you prioritized. You just didn't prioritize honoring our agreement." By the second month, they were behind on supplier payments. Tyler had to lay off 4 warehouse workers because they couldn't afford payroll. Jessica's Instagram posts became increasingly desperate. "Support local family business," and "celebrating 35 years of community service," and "quality you can trust from people who care." The engagement on her posts dropped to almost nothing. Hard to build community support when you can't deliver what you promise. The real entertainment started when Tyler decided he was going to modernize the business with his own ideas. Remember, Tyler had spent 3 years taking credit for improvements I'd made while having no understanding of how any of it actually worked. Now he was running the show, and his natural business instincts were finally getting a chance to shine. First, he decided they needed better brand visibility. He spent $12,000 on vehicle wraps for their delivery trucks, bright orange with the company logo covering almost every surface. The trucks looked like giant traffic cones, but the real genius was in the design. Tyler had insisted on including Jessica's headshot on every truck along with the tagline, "Family Values, Professional Results." So now they had delivery trucks driving around Phoenix with Jessica's glamour shots plastered on the sides. Customers started calling them the Instagram trucks, not exactly the professional image Tyler was going for. Then he renegotiated their warehouse lease. Instead of the professional space they'd been renting, he moved operations to a cheaper location on the outskirts of town. The new warehouse was $2,000 less per month, but it added an average of 45 minutes to every delivery route and was in a neighborhood where 3 of their trucks got broken into within the first month. Tyler's logic: real estate is about location, location, location. But for a warehouse, you just need space. Why pay downtown prices when we can get twice the space for half the price? What he missed: their customers were downtown contractors who needed quick deliveries. Adding 90 minutes of round-trip drive time to every delivery made their service significantly less competitive. His masterstroke was implementing what he called premium customer service. This meant assigning a personal account representative to every client. Basically, Tyler hired 6 of his friends to call customers weekly and ask if they needed anything. The customers hated it. These weren't trained sales professionals. They were Tyler's golf buddies, making scripted calls about construction supplies they didn't understand. Morrison Development told me, "Some guy called asking if we wanted to upgrade our rebar order to premium grade. We were ordering decorative gravel." Another customer complained, "Your brother's friend called trying to sell me architectural concrete for a drainage project. When I told him I needed standard concrete, he asked if I was sure I didn't want to elevate my project's aesthetic impact." The premium service team was costing them $18,000 a month in salaries while actively annoying their customer base. Jessica, meanwhile, decided she needed to leverage digital marketing synergies. She hired a social media consultant who convinced her to launch a TikTok account featuring behind-the-scenes construction supply content. The videos were exactly what you'd expect. Jessica pretending to operate equipment she'd never touched, explaining construction processes she didn't understand, and attempting to make cement mixing look fun and relatable. One video featured her trying to explain different types of concrete while wearing a white dress and high heels in the warehouse. She kept referring to concrete mixtures as recipes and talking about how each blend has its own personality. Another video showed her attempting to drive a forklift while giving safety tips. The video ended with her backing into a stack of drywall sheets while laughing nervously and saying, "Oops." That's why safety training is so important. The TikTok account got some attention, but mostly from people making fun of her. Construction workers started sharing her videos in industry groups as examples of how not to run a construction supply business. One video got 50,000 views, but only because she accidentally knocked over a display while trying to film herself walking confidently through the warehouse. The comments were not kind. "This is what happens when you put someone in charge who's never worked a real job. My toddler has better spatial awareness. How is this person running a construction company?" By month 3, their operational costs had increased 60% while their revenue dropped 30%. They were burning through their remaining cash reserves at an unsustainable rate. Dad had to take out a second mortgage on his house to cover business expenses. That's when the real begging started. Month 4 brought the first real panic call. "Michael," Dad's voice was shaky when he called on a Tuesday morning. "We need to talk. The business is in serious trouble." I heard. "Tyler made some mistakes. Jessica's initiatives didn't work out the way we hoped. We need someone who understands operations." "You need $220,000 to buy out my consulting contract. Until that happens, I'm not available." "Son, we don't have that money. You know we don't have that money. You had money for Tyler's premium service team. You had money for Jessica's marketing consultant. You had money for truck wraps and warehouse moves and TikTok campaigns. You just didn't have money for honoring contracts with me. That's not fair. Fair would have been giving me a real ownership stake when I saved your business. Fair would have been recognizing my contributions instead of pushing me out for Tyler's ego. Fair would have been treating our agreement like a legal document instead of a suggestion." I hung up. That same week, I got a call from one of their suppliers. Michael, what's going on over there? Tyler ordered $15,000 worth of roofing materials, but their payment is 3 weeks overdue. When I called to follow up, some girl told me she'd circle back with the accounting team and hung up. The girl was Jessica. The accounting team was her friend Melissa, who was apparently as confused about accounts payable as she was about everything else. I started getting more calls like this. Suppliers who were used to dealing with me were now trying to collect payments from Tyler and Jessica, who apparently didn't understand that net 30 meant they actually had to pay within 30 days. The next week, Jessica started reaching out to extended family members, trying to paint me as the villain who was letting jealousy destroy everything the family built. She called my Aunt Sarah. Michael is sabotaging the business because he's bitter about Tyler getting the leadership role. He's willing to destroy Dad's life work just to prove a point. But here's the thing about family. They'd all watched Jessica's act for years. Aunt Sarah called me the same day, laughing. That girl actually tried to tell me you were the problem. After watching her spend money like she was printing it herself for 3 years. She mentioned something about Tyler's natural leadership abilities and how you never understood the people side of business. I told her the only thing Tyler ever led was his high school baseball team to a losing season. My uncle called me too. Jessica's making the rounds, trying to get people to pressure you into coming back. She's telling everyone you destroyed their computer systems and that you're holding the family hostage. Nobody's buying it. We all remember who actually worked and who just showed up for the Christmas party photos. Tyler's friends started distancing themselves too. The guys he'd hired for his premium service team quit when their paychecks started bouncing. His golf buddies stopped returning his calls when he kept trying to get them to invest in turning the business around. One of Tyler's former teammates called me, "Dude, Tyler's been asking everyone for money. Says he needs $50,000 to stabilize operations, and he'll pay it back with interest. But everyone's heard what happened with your deal. If he screwed over his own brother, why would we trust him with our money?" The final straw came when their insurance company dropped them. Jessica had posted a video of Tyler operating a forklift while eating lunch, trying to show how efficient and multifaceted their team was. The insurance company decided they were a liability risk. Without insurance, they couldn't fulfill any major contracts. Without contracts, they couldn't pay suppliers. Without suppliers, they had no business. Tyler showed up at my apartment on a Sunday afternoon in month 5. He looked terrible, unshaven, exhausted, wearing clothes that looked like he'd slept in them. "I need help," he said. I let him stand in my doorway for a minute before responding. "What kind of help?" "Business help. I don't know what I'm doing. I thought it would be easier." "Easier than what?" "Than watching you make it look easy." That was the closest thing to honesty I'd heard from him in years. "Why should I help you?" "Because Dad's going to lose everything. The house, the business, everything. Dad chose to risk everything when he let you and Jessica push me out." Tyler's voice cracked. "She left. Jessica left, took the kids and moved back to California. Said she wasn't going to waste her life on a failing business." I wasn't surprised. Jessica had been posting increasingly frequent photos of herself at expensive restaurants and shopping centers, usually with captions about investing in self-care during difficult times. When the business started failing, her posts shifted to motivational quotes about new beginnings and not being afraid to make tough decisions. Her final Instagram post before leaving Phoenix was a photo of herself at the airport with the caption, "Sometimes you have to choose your own happiness over other people's expectations." Grateful for this new chapter. New beginnings, self-love. Moving forward, she'd already changed her relationship status to single and started posting photos with some tech executive from California within 2 weeks. "Smart move," I told Tyler. "Rats leave sinking ships. I know I messed up. I know you're better at this than me. Just help me save what's left." Here's the thing. I could have helped them. I could have walked back in there, rebuilt their systems, restructured their operations, pulled them back from the brink. The business was salvageable if someone competent took control immediately, but they'd already shown me exactly who they were. Dad had chosen favoritism over merit. Tyler had chosen ego over competence. Jessica had chosen money over loyalty. So instead, I made Tyler an offer. "I'll buy the business from Dad for $300,000. I'll keep him on as a consultant, and you can start fresh somewhere else." $300,000? That business was worth over $1 million before everything went wrong. The business I built was worth over $1 million. The business you've been running for 5 months is worth whatever someone's willing to pay for it. You can't be serious. Tyler, your business is 3 months from bankruptcy. Your insurance is gone. Your client base is gone. Your operational efficiency is gone. I'm offering to buy a failing company for more than it's worth, and throw in a job for Dad. That's generous. He left without taking the deal. 2 weeks later, Dad called me himself. Michael, Tyler told me about your offer. We can't accept $300,000 for a business that's been in our family for 35 years. Dad, in 3 months, you're going to lose that business to bankruptcy and get nothing. I'm offering you $300,000 and a consulting job. That's $300,000 more than you'll have if you keep letting Tyler run it into the ground. There has to be another way. There is. Pay me the $220,000 you owe me. Give me operational control and I'll rebuild everything. Again, we don't have $220,000. Then take the $300,000 while you still can. He hung up. The end came faster than even I expected. By month 6, they were 3 months behind on their warehouse lease. Their primary supplier had cut them off for non-payment. They had 4 trucks repoed because Tyler had missed the payments while spending money on his brand visibility campaign. The repo situation was particularly pathetic. Tyler had been so focused on making the trucks look impressive that he'd forgotten to make the payments. When the repo team showed up, Jessica's face was literally being towed away on the side of a truck she couldn't afford. Dad called me on a Wednesday morning, and I could hear the defeat in his voice. Michael, the bank is foreclosing on the business loan. We're going to lose the warehouse, the remaining trucks, all the inventory. Everything. What about Tyler's premium customer service? What about Jessica's digital marketing synergies? Please don't. I know you're angry, but this is 35 years of work disappearing. 35 years of work that I saved, and that Tyler destroyed, and that you let happen because you thought family loyalty meant ignoring incompetence. Hey, what do you want from me? Nothing, Dad. I don't want anything from you anymore. But that wasn't entirely true. What I wanted was for him to understand what had really happened. So I laid it out for him. Dad, I spent 3 months of my life and $150,000 of my money saving a business that was failing because of mismanagement. I created systems that increased your profitability by $400,000 a year. I built relationships that brought in millions of dollars in contracts. I know, son, and we were grateful. No, you weren't. You were grateful until Tyler's feelings got hurt. Then you decided my work didn't matter, because Tyler needed to feel important. You gave away my contributions to make your favorite son feel better about himself. That's not how it happened. That's exactly how it happened. And when I asked to be compensated fairly, you told me family doesn't charge family. But when Tyler wanted new trucks and Jessica wanted salary increases and premium marketing consultants, somehow there was always money for that. I could hear him crying on the other end of the line. We can fix this. Come back and we'll make it right. You can't fix 35 years of playing favorites, Dad. And you can't fix the fact that when it mattered most, you chose Tyler's ego over our family's future. The business closed 2 weeks later. Dad had to sell the house to pay off the personal guarantees he'd signed on the business loans. The bankruptcy auction brought in enough to cover most of their debts, but not enough to save anything. Tyler moved to Nevada and got a job with a construction company doing basic project coordination. No management responsibilities, just following other people's instructions and keeping his mouth shut. His new boss told me when I called for a reference. We hired him specifically for grunt work. His resume shows management experience, but honestly, he seems more comfortable when someone else is making the decisions. Jessica's new marriage made it into Phoenix social media circles. She'd found herself a tech executive who apparently appreciated her marketing expertise enough to put a ring on it within 6 months of meeting her. Her Instagram transformation was immediate. Gone were the construction site photos, replaced by pictures of wine tastings and spa days, with captions about finally living authentically. Dad moved into a small apartment and started driving for a rideshare company to make ends meet. The man who'd built a multi-million-dollar business from nothing was now driving strangers around Phoenix for $15 an hour. Dad called me last week. First time we'd talked since the business closed 18 months ago. Son, I've been thinking about everything that happened, about the mistakes I made. Okay, you were right. About Tyler, about Jessica, about the business. I let my feelings cloud my judgment. I didn't respond immediately. I'd been waiting for this conversation for 2 years, but now that it was happening, I felt mostly empty. I'm proud of what you've built, he continued. Your business, your success. You proved you didn't need us after all. I never wanted to prove that, Dad. I wanted to be part of something we built together. I know. And I threw that away because I was more worried about Tyler's feelings than your contributions. We talked for 20 minutes. He told me about his new apartment, his rideshare work, how Tyler was doing in Nevada. He asked about my business, my house, whether I was happy. At the end of the call, he asked, "Is there any chance we could rebuild our relationship? Not the business. I know that's gone. But us? I don't know. I said honestly. You showed me who I was to you when you had to choose. That's not something you can take back. I understand. But I'm not angry anymore. Anger was just the pain of expecting different from you. Now I know what to expect. We hung up with an agreement to talk again in a few months. Maybe we'll rebuild something. Maybe we won't. But it'll be on my terms this time. Tyler sent me a LinkedIn connection request a few weeks ago. I declined it. Some bridges don't get rebuilt. They just burn completely down. Last Saturday, I was having lunch at a restaurant in Phoenix when I saw Jessica. She was with her new husband and his kids, playing the part of the perfect stepmom for her social media audience. She saw me but pretended she didn't. I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no regret, just nothing. That evening, I looked at my business plan for next year. We're expanding into California and Texas. I'm hiring a business development director and 2 senior consultants. My associates are talking about profit sharing and equity stakes for long-term employees. Story 4. This story is titled, I found my fiancée kissing her ex at our engagement party. Just a goodbye kiss, you insecure loser. She mocked me when I confronted her. I said nothing, but the next day she is hysterically blowing my phone with calls. Hey everyone. Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey guys. So I, 28 male, just walked out of my own engagement party last night, and my phone's been going crazy ever since. Need some perspective before I completely lose it. I've always been the cautious type with relationships. My friends literally call me safety jacks because I never rush into anything without making sure it's right first. I take my time, watch for red flags, and think things through. That's just how I've always been. But that all changed when I met Zelina 2 years ago. We matched on Hinge, and honestly, she was way prettier than anyone who'd ever swiped right on me before. First date, I was fully prepared to get ghosted afterward, but instead, we ended up talking for hours. She's smart, confident, and has this infectious laugh that just makes everyone around her smile. I was completely into her from day one. The relationship moved pretty fast after that. We moved in together after 8 months, which was super quick for me. After almost 2 years together, I proposed during a hike to this lookout point she loves. She cried, said yes, and some random hikers even took pictures for us. I thought everything was perfect. Here's where things start getting complicated. Zelina's family has money. Not crazy rich, but definitely the type who belong to country clubs and take European vacations every year. Her dad, Atticus, owns this financial advisory firm that manages retirement funds for businesses around our state. He's definitely successful and never misses a chance to remind me that I'm not. I run my own solar panel installation business. Started it 3 years ago after working for someone else and learning the trade. Now I have 4 employees and steady business. I'm actually really proud of what I've built. But Atticus always acts like I'm just playing pretend at being a businessman. How's the roof climbing business? He asks every time I see him. Like he can't remember what I actually do. Zelina always told me to ignore him, saying she doesn't care about status or whatever. I believed her. So our engagement party was last month at their country club. Nothing super fancy, about 70 people, open bar, and a jazz band playing in the corner. Everything was going fine until I saw him walk in. Draven, Zelina's college ex. The guy she dated for like 4 years before we met. Tall dude with perfect hair, who works at some investment firm and drives a car that probably costs more than everything I own combined. I almost choked on my drink. Why is your ex here? I asked Zelina when I found her talking to some cousins. She gave me this look like I was being ridiculous. His parents are friends with my parents. It would have been weird not to invite him. You didn't think to maybe mention this to me beforehand? Honestly, I didn't think it mattered. We broke up years ago. It's not a big deal, but the way she kept looking at him across the room definitely made it feel like a big deal to me. Every time I glanced over, she seemed to be checking where he was. I tried to tell myself I was just being paranoid. I did my best to act normal. Talked to her family, thanked people for coming, and tried to ignore how Atticus introduced me to his golf buddies as Zelina's fiancé who does solar things. Real subtle, dude. About an hour into the party, I noticed that I hadn't seen Zelina for a while. At first, I figured she was in the bathroom or talking to relatives, but after like 20 minutes, I started looking for her. I checked the main room, the patio, even asked one of her friends if she'd seen her. Nothing. There was this hallway that led to some smaller rooms, and the coat check area. I hadn't checked there yet, so I headed that way, just wanting to find my fiancé so we could take some pictures together or whatever. That's when my whole world pretty much fell apart. I turned the corner and saw her standing with Draven in this little alcove by the coat room. They were standing super close, his hand was on her waist, and they were kissing. Not making out or anything, but definitely a real kiss between two people who knew what they were doing. They didn't see me at first. I just stood there like an idiot, feeling like someone had dumped ice water all over me. I couldn't even move or say anything. My brain just wouldn't process what I was seeing. Then Draven noticed me and stepped back, adjusting his tie like nothing had happened. He didn't even look embarrassed or surprised, just gave me this weird half smile that made me want to punch him. Zelina turned around, and her reaction was what really got me. She looked annoyed. Not guilty, not embarrassed. Just annoyed that I'd interrupted them. Jax, she said with this sigh, don't make this into a big thing. I finally found my voice. What's going on here? She rolled her eyes at me. Actually rolled her eyes. It was just a quick goodbye kiss. We have history together. It's really not that serious. You are kissing your ex. At our engagement party, I said, feeling like I needed to clarify the situation, since she seemed to think this was normal. It was barely even a kiss, she replied, fixing her lipstick like we were talking about the weather. We dated for 4 years, Jax. We're still friends. Don't be so insecure about it. Draven put his hands in his pockets and had the nerve to add, yeah, man, we're just talking about old times. No need to make it weird. I think that's when something in me just shut down. I felt weirdly calm, like I was watching this happen to someone else. I just nodded, turned around, and slowly walked away. Jax! Zelina called after me. Don't you dare make a scene right now! But I didn't. Didn't look at anyone. Just walked through the party, grabbed my jacket from the coat check, and headed straight to my car. By the time I got to the parking lot, my phone was already buzzing with texts. Zelina, where did you go? Zelina, answer your phone. Zelina, you're being completely immature. Zelina, my dad is asking where you went. Zelina, OMG, you're embarrassing me so much I turned my phone off and just drove. Didn't know where I was going at first. Just needed to get away from there. Eventually, I ended up at my buddy Kai's place. He took one look at my face when he opened the door and knew something bad had happened. Bro, what's wrong? He asked, letting me in. I told him everything while we sat on his balcony. He just listened. Didn't try to give advice or tell me what to do. Just let me talk it out. What are you gonna do? He finally asked when I finished. I have no idea, I said. But I can't marry her. Not after this. He nodded. You can crash here as long as you need. And there I was, sleeping on Kai's gaming couch. That's definitely not meant for someone my height, trying to figure out what to do next. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of notifications. My phone was going crazy with missed calls, text messages, and voicemails from Zelina and her dad. Watching Zelina's texts evolve through the night was like seeing all 5 stages of grief happen in real time, all ranging between, how could I embarrass her like this? Her dad was furious. I was being immature. Then, the denial and bargaining started rolling in. The kiss wasn't what I thought. Draven meant nothing to her. I was overreacting. But the voicemails from Atticus were something else. He was basically threatening me. You better get back here and apologize to my daughter for embarrassing her like this. We have guests from out of town who came specifically for this party. This is completely unacceptable behavior. Then him trying to sound reasonable, but still being condescending. Jax, I understand you might be upset, but this is not how adults handle their problems. Call me back so we can discuss this situation like men. I didn't respond to any of it. Just turned my phone off again and tried to figure out what to do next. Kai had to go to work, so I was alone in his apartment most of the day. That's when I really started thinking clearly about everything. Not just what happened at the party, but our whole relationship. Like, Zelina and I had been together for 2 years, and in that time, she'd always made these little comments about my business. Stuff like, once you get some bigger clients, or when you can afford to hire more people, always making it seem like what I had built wasn't good enough yet. And whenever we were around her rich friends, she'd introduce me as Jax. He owns his own business, but never actually explain what I did, like she was embarrassed by it. I started realizing there were a bunch of red flags I'd been ignoring, because I was so into her. The way she'd always take her dad's side when he made those snide comments about my work. How she'd joke about upgrading my wardrobe. The times she'd mentioned her ex Draven and then quickly changed the subject, like there was more to the story. Around 3 p.m., I decided I needed to go back to our apartment and get my stuff while she was still at work. I texted my employee Marcus to ask if he could help me move some things, and he showed up with his truck within an hour. Real one. We went to the apartment and I packed up everything I couldn't live without. just the essentials that would fit in Marcus's truck and my car. Took about 2 hours total. Before I left, I put my grandma's ring, the one I'd proposed with, on the kitchen counter with a note that just said, "Goodbye, kiss." Then I blocked Zelina's number and her social media accounts. I knew if I talked to her, she'd try to minimize what happened, make me feel crazy for being upset, or convince me to give her another chance. And honestly, I just didn't have the energy for any of that. That night, Zelina apparently showed up at Kai's place looking for me. I wasn't there. I'd gone to grab dinner with Marcus after moving my stuff, but Kai texted me, "Your girl just showed up at my door crying. I told her you weren't here, and I didn't know when you'd be back. She thinks I'm lying. Heads up." When I got back to Kai's, there was a letter taped to his door with my name on it. Inside was this long, rambling apology from Zelina, saying how the kiss just happened and didn't mean anything, that she and Draven were just talking about old times and got caught up in the moment. She wrote that she was devastated I would throw away our future over one tiny mistake and begged me to call her. I tore it up and threw it in the trash. The next day, I spent most of the morning calling wedding vendors to cancel everything. Since I'd paid for about half the deposits, even though her parents were covering most of the wedding, I'd insisted on paying my share. I was able to cancel pretty easily. Some of them even offered partial refunds when I explained what happened. I was just finishing up the last cancellation call when my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, thinking it might be Zelina calling from someone else's phone, but for some reason I picked up. It was Draven, her ex. "Jax, don't hang up," he said quickly. "We should talk about what happened." "Nothing to talk about," I replied. "Look, man, I just want to explain. That kiss wasn't planned or anything. Zelina and I were just catching up, talking about college days, and it just sort of happened. It didn't mean anything." "So you randomly kiss all your exes when you're catching up?" I asked. "Or just the ones who are engaged?" He sighed. "It was a mistake. One-time thing. Zelina loves you, man. She's a mess right now." "Cut the crap, man. Why do you even care?" I asked. There was a pause. "I just don't want to be the reason someone's relationship ends. It's not cool." "You're not the reason," I said. "Zelina made her choice when she kissed you back, and I made mine when I walked out. We're done here." I hung up and blocked his number too. Later that afternoon, Atticus called. Actually, he called several times before I finally answered. "What?" I said when I picked up. "We need to discuss the situation with you and my daughter," he said, sounding all businesslike. "There's nothing to discuss. We're done. Don't be hasty. Everyone makes mistakes. Zelina feels terrible about what happened. Is she sorry it happened or sorry I saw it?" I asked. After a pause, he said, "Jax, I understand you're upset, but perhaps we can come to some kind of arrangement to handle this quietly." "What does that mean?" "Well, I know your business is still growing. Perhaps you could use some financial assistance. A loan to help expand. In exchange, you and Zelina could postpone the wedding. Work through this rough patch." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you trying to bribe me to stay with your daughter after she cheated?" "I wouldn't put it that way. I'm offering to help smooth things over during a difficult time." "No thanks," I said, and hung up. I didn't understand why her dad is concerned that much about the engagement. It's not like he liked me that much. But I don't give a crap about what they want anymore. I'm done. And that's where things stand now. I'm still at Kai's place, trying to figure out my next steps. I've told a few close friends what happened, but I'm not going around trashing Zelina to everyone we know. Just being honest when people ask why I moved out suddenly. The weird thing is, I'm not even that angry anymore. Just done. Like a switch flipped off inside me when I saw them together. I gave this relationship everything I had, and in the end, it wasn't enough. She still wanted something, or someone else. I think what hurts the most isn't even the kiss itself. It's how she reacted when I caught them. Like I was the problem for being upset about it. No real guilt, no immediate apology, just annoyance that I was making a big thing out of catching my fiancé kissing her ex at our engagement party. For now, I'm just trying to figure out what to do next. I've got a lead on an apartment that I can move into next week, just trying to take things one day at a time. But I just want to know, do you guys think I'm exaggerating here? Anyway, I'll keep you updated. Update 1. Hey guys, it's been a week since the engagement party disaster, and lots has happened. First off, I found an apartment and signed a 6-month lease. It's nothing fancy, just a 1-bedroom in a decent area, but it's all mine, and Zelina doesn't know where it is. I moved in 3 days ago with the stuff I'd grabbed from our old place. I'll need to buy some furniture eventually, but for now I've got a mattress on the floor, my TV set up on a plastic storage bin, and my laptop. Living the bachelor dream, am I right? I thought moving to a new place would give me some space to think, but Zelina had other ideas. Since she couldn't reach me by phone, still blocked, she decided to show up at my work site on Monday. I run a solar panel installation business, and we were setting up a system at this nice house in the suburbs when her blue Audi pulled up. I was on the roof with two of my employees when Marcus, who was on the ground, called up to me. Boss? There's someone here to see you. Looks like your fiancé. Ex-fiancé, I corrected him, and climbed down to see what she wanted. Zelina was standing there in heels and an expensive-looking dress, completely out of place among our work trucks and equipment. The customer had come outside to see what was going on, which made the whole thing even more awkward. We need to talk, Zelina said, not even bothering to lower her voice. I'm working, I replied, gesturing to the very obvious job site around us. You've been ignoring all my calls and texts, she said. You moved out without even talking to me. You're acting ridiculous. I looked at her calmly. I'm acting like someone who caught his fiancée kissing another man. What exactly did you expect? She glanced at the customer who was watching us with obvious interest, then lowered her voice slightly. That was nothing. A stupid mistake. One little kiss. You're throwing away our entire relationship over it. If it was nothing, why were you doing it? I asked, my voice level. Draven and I were just talking, and he leaned in. It just happened. It meant nothing. Same stupid excuses. I didn't say anything. There was nothing left to say. I turned to walk away, ready to get back to work. So that's it? She called after me. 2 years together and you're just done? I turned back. Yep. Unbelievable. She shook her head, eyes narrowing. You know what? This is probably for the best. I was settling anyway. Settling? I repeated, curious despite myself. Look at you. She gestured at my work clothes. Climbing around on roofs for a living, driving that beat-up truck, living paycheck to paycheck. You really think that's the kind of life I want? That's the kind of man I deserve? I just smiled. No, I don't think that's what you deserve at all. Her expression faltered a bit, like she wasn't expecting that response. You deserve exactly what you're getting, I continued. And I deserve better than you. The customer, this older lady, actually let out a low, ooh, behind me. Zelina's face flushed. You'll regret this. No one will ever love you like I did. That's what I'm counting on, I said with a slight nod. Then I turned my back on her and walked toward my crew. Back to work, guys. These panels aren't going to install themselves. I heard her car door slam and the engine rev as she sped away. The customer came over and patted my arm. Seems like you dodged a bullet there, honey. I went back to work, but my mind was spinning. The way Zelina had talked about my job and lifestyle. I wondered if she'd always felt that way. Had she always seen me as beneath her? That evening, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Hi, Jax. This is Nix. We haven't met, but I think we need to talk. I'm Draven's girlfriend. Wait, what? Draven has a girlfriend? The same Draven who was kissing my fiancé at our engagement party? I was confused, but curious enough to text back and agree to meet her for coffee the next day. Nix turned out to be this cool girl with purple hair who works as a graphic designer. She didn't waste any time getting to the point. Draven's been cheating on me with Zelina for months, she said, pulling out her phone. I found their messages last week. She showed me screenshot after screenshot of texts between Draven and Zelina going back at least 4 months. Not just friendly texts, but making plans to meet up, talking about hotels they'd stayed at, and some explicit stuff I really didn't need to see. In one message from just 2 weeks before our engagement party, Zelina had written, Jax's business connections are perfect for helping me launch my interior design company. Once that's running, we'll figure us out. I felt sick reading it. Not just because of the cheating, but because she was using me for my business contacts. I've spent years building relationships with contractors and property developers for my solar business. Connections that would be valuable to someone trying to break into interior design. How did you find these? I asked Nix. Draven left his iPad logged into his messages at our apartment, she said. I wasn't snooping. I was just going to watch Netflix, but the messages popped up. After reading through them, I realized the business dinners and networking events he'd been going to were actually meetups with Zelina. She showed me more evidence. Hotel receipts, restaurant charges on shared credit card statements, even a reservation for the night before our engagement party. The kiss you saw wasn't some spontaneous thing, Nick said. They'd been meeting up regularly. The night before your party, Draven told me he had a late client meeting, but he was actually with Zelina at the Westbrook Hotel downtown. Everything started making sense. All those nights Zelina had been working late or having drinks with the girls. She'd been with Draven, the way she sometimes put her phone face down when I entered the room. How she'd get defensive if I asked about her day or who she'd been with. I'm sorry, Nick said. I thought you should know. Don't be sorry, I told her. Thanks for showing me this. Confirms I made the right call walking away. Nix nodded. I wish I'd known sooner. I've wasted 3 years with Draven. 3 years? I said. So he was with you the entire time I was with Zelina? Looks that way, she replied grimly. We compared notes and realized there were at least 15 to 20 times when Zelina and Draven had claimed to be somewhere else, but were actually together. After I left coffee with Nyx, I got a call from Zelina's friend Senna. We'd always gotten along well, and I was surprised to hear from her. I can't believe what she's saying about you, Senna said. She's telling everyone you were controlling and jealous, and that she's glad you broke up. Is that right? I asked, not really surprised. It's total BS, and I know it, she said firmly. I can't listen to her lie anymore. That's why I'm calling. I suspected about her and Draven for a while. I should have said something. You knew? Not for sure, she said. But I saw them together at a restaurant about 2 months ago when Zelina had told me she was visiting her mom. When I asked her about it later, she got super defensive and made me promise not to mention it to you. Interesting. So even her friends knew something was going on. There's more, Senna continued. She's throwing this freedom party this weekend at that new club downtown. She's invited everyone and is calling it her celebration of dodging a bullet. Senna paused. Draven will be there as her date. Good for them, I said with a laugh. Hope they have fun. I've sent you an email with the invitation, Senna added. I thought you should know what she's saying about you. I thanked her, checked my email, and sure enough, there was an evite to Zelina's freedom celebration, with a picture of her looking happy, and the caption, finally free and living my best life. Without thinking, I forwarded the invitation to Atticus with no comment. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Atticus. What is the meaning of this? He demanded. Just thought you'd want to know what your daughter's up to while you're trying to save her engagement, I replied coolly. Where did you get this invitation? Does it matter? Your daughter is publicly celebrating our breakup with the same guy she was cheating on me with. The guy she was kissing at the engagement party you threw for us. There was a long pause. This is unacceptable, he finally said, his voice tight. After everything I've done, then he hung up. I'm not going to Zelina's party, obviously. Got better things to do with my weekend. But I was curious about what Atticus meant by, after everything I've done. Something weird was definitely going on with her family, so I decided to make a call. My friend Raven works as a reporter at a local business journal and knows all the financial gossip in town. Hey Raven, quick question. Have you heard anything about Bennett Financial Advisors lately? Anything unusual going on? There was a pause on the line. Wait, you didn't know? They're under investigation by state regulators. How did you hear about it? I didn't until now, I said. What kind of investigation? Compliance issues with client accounts. Nothing public yet, but it's serious. Several big clients are already quietly moving their money. Why are you asking about Atticus's company? I explained the situation briefly, and suddenly everything clicked. Atticus's desperate attempts to keep me with Zelina, the bribe offers, it all made sense now. A big family wedding would project stability and success while his business was under scrutiny. Nothing says everything's fine like dropping serious cash on your daughter's wedding. I hung up with Raven and immediately texted Atticus. I know about the regulatory investigation. No response for like an hour. Then my doorbell rings. I peek through the hole and who do I see but the great Atticus Bennett himself, somehow tracking down my new address like some kind of rich people GPS. I open the door but don't invite him in. Jax, he says, voice all smooth and businessman-like. I think we got off on the wrong foot. Can we talk? Against my better judgment, seriously, why do I make these decisions? I let him in. My place is basically a sad IKEA display gone wrong. Mattress on the floor, folding table, 2 chairs that probably cost less than his watch. He looks around trying not to grimace. Bless his heart. I understand you're upset with Zelina, he begins, perching on my Walmart chair like it might bite him. And you have every right to be. What she did was disappointing. Disappointing? I laughed. Yeah, finding your fiancé sucking face with her ex is kinda disappointing. He ignores my sarcasm. But we all make mistakes, he continues. And I know for a fact she regrets what happened. This situation could still be salvaged. I just stare at him. Cut the crap, Atticus. Why are you really here? He sighs like I'm the unreasonable one. Look, our families were about to be joined. I still think of you as almost family, and I'd hate to see you struggle with your business when I could help. My business is doing fine, I say in my best talking to a toddler voice. It could be doing better, he says, leaning forward. I have connections. I know people who are looking to go solar, high-end residential clients, the kind that could really put your company on the map. In exchange for what? Getting back with Zelina? Let me guess, We can just pretend I never saw her playing tonsil hockey with her ex. Think of it as a fresh start. People reconcile after mistakes all the time. I shake my head. Yeah, that's gonna be a no from me, dog. His face changes. Ah, there's the real Atticus. The mask slips. I was trying to be reasonable, Jax. But since you mentioned the investigation into my company, you should know that information could be damaging if it got out prematurely. Is that a threat? Because it sounds like a threat wrapped in a Brooks Brothers suit. It's a reminder that we all have vulnerabilities, he says coolly. Your solar supplier, they get their financing through a subsidiary of my firm. One word from me, and your credit terms could become problematic. My stomach drops faster than my ex's standards. If my main supplier cut off my payment terms, I'm basically screwed. So, that's the real Atticus Bennett, I say. Threatening someone's livelihood because your daughter can't keep her promises? Father of the Year material right there. I prefer to think of it as protecting my family's interests, he replies, standing up. Think about my offer. Help with high-end clients in exchange for your discretion and reconciliation with Zelina. Or choose the alternative. After he left, I sat on my sad little mattress, thinking about how my life has become a bad Netflix drama. I spend the next few hours calling other suppliers, checking prices, basically trying to patch together a plan B. It would cost more, but maybe doable. The thought of crawling back to Zelina just to save my business makes me want to yeet myself into the sun. So that's where things stand now. I'm trying to figure out how to save my business from my ex's daddy issues. I've told a few friends what happened, but I'm not going around trashing Zelina to everyone. The truth is coming out just fine on its own. The weird thing is, I'm not even mad at Zelina anymore. Just relieved I found out she's a cheater before I put a ring on it. But her dad's threats have me stressed. This is the business I built from nothing. My employees depend on me. In a way, catching that kiss was the best thing that could have happened to me. But it's also opened up a whole new level of crap I never saw coming. Funny how life works out, huh? Final update. Hey again. It's been 2 weeks since everything went down. So the big event this weekend was Zelina's Freedom Party, her celebration of our breakup. I obviously didn't go, but I heard all about it from multiple sources, and let me tell you, it did not go according to her plan. According to Senna, Zelina showed up with Draven as her date. She was telling everyone that I had been controlling and jealous, and that she'd finally escaped our toxic relationship. About an hour into the party, guess who showed up? Atticus. He walked straight up to Zelina and Draven on the dance floor and started yelling at them in front of everyone. He called Draven a worthless parasite and Zelina an ungrateful child. Then he told her that her credit cards had been canceled, her allowance was cut off, and she had 2 weeks to move out of her apartment. Zelina completely lost it, screaming back at him that he couldn't control her anymore. Draven apparently just stood there looking uncomfortable. The bouncers eventually asked all three of them to leave. The next morning, I got a text from an unknown number, Zelina using a friend's phone. It was this long paragraph about how much she regretted everything, how Draven had manipulated her, how she'd made the biggest mistake of her life, and asking if we could please talk. I didn't respond. Later that day, Nyx, Draven's girlfriend, called me. Did you hear what happened at the party? I got the highlights from Senna. Well, there's more, she said. Draven just tried to come crawling back to me. Said Zelina was crazy and that he'd made a mistake. That they'd only been hooking up casually and she got too attached. He claimed he never promised her anything serious. What did you say? I told him to get lost. But I thought you should know. They're apparently already turning on each other. I was honestly satisfied that the karma did its job, but I was still worried about my business and Atticus's shit. Monday morning, my main solar panel supplier called, and I braced myself, convinced Atticus had messed up my credit terms. But instead, they asked if everything was good with my account, sounding confused when I asked if there was a problem. They actually wanted to expand my credit line due to my excellent payment history and the fact I was taking on bigger projects. I was honestly confused. Had Atticus backed off his threat? Later that day, I found out why when I ran into a guy I know who works at another financial firm. He mentioned in passing that Bennett Financial was going through some compliance issues, and Atticus was scrambling to keep clients from jumping ship. Apparently, he had bigger problems than messing with my supplier accounts. That evening, I got another text from Zelina, this time from her own number. Jax, please call me. My dad cut me off completely. I need to talk to you. I blocked her number again. Not my circus, not my monkeys. The weirdest part of all this? I'm actually doing better than I have in months. It's like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I didn't realize how much energy I was spending trying to be good enough for Zelina and her family until I stopped having to do it. So that's where things stand now. My business is growing. I've got a cool dog, a nice apartment, and maybe the beginning of something new with Echo. Not at all where I thought I'd be a month ago, but I'm actually happier than I've been in a long time. Sometimes life's biggest disappointments lead to unexpected opportunities. If Zelina hadn't cheated, I'd be planning a wedding right now to someone who didn't really love me, just what I could do for her. Instead, I'm free to build a life that's actually right for me. Story 5. This story is titled, My Wife Left Me After I Funded Her Business, claiming that I was no longer on her level, and she went off with her AP. However, now that her business has failed, and her AP did this to her, she's begging for another chance. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Alright guys, this is going to be a long one. This all started about 2 years ago. But to really understand how bad I screwed up, you gotta know the background. I've been reading this sub forever, but never thought I'd be posting my own story here. So I'm Mike, 35 male, been married to Anna, 34 female, for 12 years. We've got 2 awesome kids, Zoe, 11 female, and Maya, 9 female. We were that typical suburban family living in Virginia. You know the type, nice house, decent jobs, kids doing their activities, nothing crazy. I work in medical device sales. Sounds fancy, but I'm just a glorified salesman. And Anna used to work in marketing before deciding to stay home with the kids. Anna was honestly amazing. We met in college. She was this creative, down-to-earth girl who could make anyone laugh, had this way of turning ordinary moments into adventures. Like she'd pack these elaborate picnic surprises for no reason, or start random dance parties in the kitchen while making dinner. Every birthday or anniversary, she'd create these incredible scrapbooks filled with ticket stubs and photos and little notes about our memories together. The kind of stuff that makes you feel like the luckiest guy alive, you know? When the kids came along, she threw herself into being a mom with the same enthusiasm. Made their lunches into little art projects, turned bedtime stories into full theatrical productions, complete with different voices for each character. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. Had our date nights, shared inside jokes, actually enjoyed hanging out together. Here's where my sister Jenny comes in. She's older than me by 2 years and got divorced like 3 years ago. Her ex was a real piece of work, cheated on her with some 23-year-old from his gym. Ever since then, Jenny's gone full women empowerment mode. Like, her whole personality changed. She started posting these crazy long Instagram captions about finding her authentic self and unlocking her feminine power or whatever. I didn't think much of it at first. Jenny was hurting, and if posting quotes from these self-help gurus made her feel better, who was I to judge? But then she started spending more time with Anna. A lot more time. See, Anna was getting kind of restless. The kids were both in school full-time, and I could tell she was bored. She'd always been super creative, used to make these amazing scrapbooks and stuff for the kids. But now she was just scrolling through her phone all day and watching those mind-numbing reality shows. Jenny started coming over like 3 to 4 times a week for these sister sessions. Their words, not mine. They'd sit in our kitchen drinking coffee and talking about unleashing their potential. Jenny kept showing Anna these Instagram accounts of women who built empires from their phones. Most of them were selling some kind of crystals or essential oils or whatever. My parents were actually supportive of this whole thing too. Mom was all, "It's so nice the girls are bonding," and Dad just nodded along because, well, that's what he does. Even my in-laws thought it was great that Anna was finding her passion. Nobody saw what was coming. Anna started talking different. Everything became about mindset and abundance. She joined all these Facebook groups about mompreneur lifestyle and would stay up late watching YouTube videos about scaling your business. One night, she came to me all excited about this idea for making special soap. Not just regular soap, this was going to be spiritual soap with crystals in it. She had this whole plan about targeting the wellness community. And you know what? I actually thought it was a good idea. I mean, Anna's creative, she's good at marketing, and people are really into that spiritual stuff right now. Plus, I wanted to be supportive. My dad always taught me that a good husband supports his wife's dreams. So I jumped in 100%. I spent a couple weeks helping her get started, used my sales experience to help set up her website, got her supplies, and hired a tech guy to set up inventory tracking and payment systems. Cost us about $3,000 to get everything going, but I figured it was worth it to see her excited about something. Jenny was over all the time now, helping Anna with social media stuff. They'd do these photo shoots with the soap, arranging crystals and flowers around it. Using these special lights I bought, Anna started calling herself a craftpreneur. Typing that made me cringe, but whatever. The first few months were actually pretty great. Anna was happy, the house was always clean because she wanted good backgrounds for her soap photos, and she was still super involved with the kids. She'd even let them help with product development, basically letting them pick scents and colors for new soaps. It was cute. Our friends were supportive too. They all bought soap. Anna would go to local craft fairs and actually sell quite a bit. She was making these cute gift boxes with different soaps and crystals, and people loved them. The local yoga studio even started carrying her stuff. Actually, I was so proud of her. I kept telling everyone how amazing she was doing, how she built this business from scratch. Jenny was going around telling everyone she was Anna's business mentor. She wasn't. She just showed her how to use Instagram filters. Even my mom bought like 20 soap sets to give to her friends at church. But hindsight's 2020, right? This was just the calm before the storm. For about 6 months, the business was actually doing really well. Anna was making like $5,000 to $6,000 a month selling her spiritual soap stuff. Not gonna lie, I was pretty impressed. But that's when things started getting weird. It started small. Anna got invited to this Women in Business conference in Richmond. Cost like $800 for a weekend ticket. But she was excited, and the business could afford it. So why not? Jenny obviously went with her because God forbid Anna do anything without her business mentor. They came back different, like they joined some kind of weird business cult or something. Suddenly, everything was about scaling and building your empire. Anna started buying all these online courses about maximizing your feminine business energy, whatever TF that means. She had Jenny over even more, and they'd spend hours planning her ascension to CEO status of a soap company that operated out of our garage. Then came the changes to our routine. Anna used to make dinner every night. She was actually a great cook, but now she was too busy manifesting abundance to do mundane tasks. Direct quote. I started having to pick up takeout on my way home from work because apparently cooking would diminish her CEO energy. The kids started noticing too. Zoe had this big basketball tournament, and Anna missed it because she was doing some online masterclass about Instagram Reels. Maya's teacher called because she hadn't been doing her homework. Turns out Anna was too busy with her business strategy sessions to check it anymore. Our garage turned into this insane soap factory. Like, we couldn't even park the cars in there anymore because it was full of these drying racks and boxes of supplies. The house always smelled like essential oils and sage, because apparently you have to sage your soap inventory for good business energy or some crap. I tried talking to her about it. Like, hey, maybe we should find a balance here? She looked at me like I'd just told her the earth was flat. Mike, you don't understand. This isn't just a business, it's a movement. We're helping women unlock their spiritual potential through mindful cleansing. I wish I was making this up. Jenny wasn't helping at all. She'd be there practically every day, encouraging this nonsense. Anna, you're such a visionary. You're going to be the next Gwyneth Paltrow, because that's what the world needs. Another overpriced wellness brand. The spending got crazy too. Anna started buying all this expensive office furniture for her CEO space, aka the spare room. Like, she spent $1,200 on this fancy chair because abundant CEOs need abundant seating. She hired a business coach to help her step into her power. Started going to all these networking events and seminars. Our joint account was getting drained for all this business stuff. When I brought it up, she got super defensive. I'm investing in our future. You should be grateful I'm bringing in money. Most men would love to have a wife who's building an empire. The worst part? Our friends and family were still encouraging her. My mom kept sharing her business posts on Facebook. My dad told me I should be proud of having such an entrepreneurial wife. Even my friends were like, dude, she's killing it. You should be happy. But they didn't see what was happening at home. The kids were eating cereal for dinner because mom was too busy doing Instagram lives about mindful soap creation. The house was a mess unless she was filming content. She started missing parent-teacher conferences because they conflicted with her mastermind sessions. One night, I found Zoe crying in her room. She'd gotten an A on her science project and wanted to show Anna, but Anna was too busy filming soap-making tutorials to look at it. That hit me hard. Like, what the hell happened to my wife, who used to be so excited about every little thing the kids did? I tried everything to get her interested in literally anything else. Booked us this weekend getaway at that resort she always talked about. She canceled last minute because of some emergency business strategy session. Got her into this fancy cooking class she used to love before all this started. She left halfway through because she needed to align her business energy or whatever. Even tried getting her back into doing stuff with the kids like she used to. Remember those amazing scrapbooks she made for their birthdays? But nope, Apparently, that was limiting her entrepreneurial potential. Who even talks like that? When I brought up how much the kids missed spending time with her, she just gave me this condescending look and said, "Men often try to dim a woman's light when she starts to shine too bright." Like, yeah, that's it. I'm intimidated by your magic soap business that's taking over our garage and ruining our family. Really starting to hate all this spiritual business talk. How's that? It focuses on the early red flags and her changing personality without bringing in the coaching element yet. Want me to adjust anything else? So at that point, she was making decent money, but spending it all on these weird business courses and mindset coaching. That's when Brad showed up. This dude, man, where do I even start? She met him at some entrepreneur conference in DC, came home talking about this amazing business coach who had revolutionized the spiritual product industry or whatever. According to his Instagram, which I later checked out, he was some kind of business guru who helped heart-centered entrepreneurs scale their divine businesses. I'm not even joking, that's exactly what his bio said. Brad was like every stereotypical business coach you can imagine. Always wearing these tight blue suits, had that perfect white smile, posted constant photos of himself working in exotic locations. Total douche vibes. But Anna? Oh man, she was completely starstruck. The first red flag was the price of his coaching program. He wanted $15,000 for 6 months of coaching. $15,000. To teach someone how to sell soap. I nearly fell off my chair when Anna told me, but she had already paid the deposit using business funds before even talking to me about it. It's an investment in our future, Mike. Brad has helped other spiritual entrepreneurs scale to 7 figures. That was her justification. She kept showing me these testimonials from his other clients, all saying how he helped them manifest abundance and crap like that. The coaching started with these weekly Zoom calls that had to be in the evening, because apparently soap business strategy can only be discussed after 8 p.m. Anna would get all dressed up for these video calls like she was going to a fancy dinner. Full makeup, nice outfits, the works. For a Zoom call about soap. Then came the intensive strategy sessions that had to be in person. These meetings were always at some fancy hotel lobby or upscale coffee shop. Never at like an actual office or something normal. And they always seemed to run late into the evening. Jenny, who was still hanging around all the time, thought Brad was the best thing since sliced bread. OMG, Anna, he's such a visionary, and he totally gets the divine feminine energy of your brand. She'd help Anna get ready for these coaching sessions, like she was preparing her for prom or something. The kids started asking questions I couldn't really answer. Why does mom dress up to talk about soap? How come she can go to business meetings but not my dance recital? Maya's teacher emailed me again because Anna missed another parent-teacher conference. Apparently, she had an emergency strategy session with Brad. The breaking point for me was when Zoe got sick at school. She had a fever and needed to be picked up. I was in the middle of a huge project at work and couldn't leave. Called Anna, straight to voicemail. Texted her, no response. Finally got hold of Jenny, who told me Anna was in a session with Brad and couldn't be disturbed. I had to make up some excuse at work and go get my kid, because my wife was too busy manifesting with her business coach to take care of our sick daughter. When I finally got hold of Anna that night, she acted like I was being unreasonable for being upset. Mike, Brad says a true CEO has to make hard choices sometimes. You're just not thinking abundantly enough. Around this time, the business actually started making less money. Anna was so focused on scaling and building her empire that she was neglecting the actual soap making. Orders were going out late. Customers were complaining about quality, but she didn't care because she was too busy planning her ascension to 7 figures. I started documenting everything. The missed school events, the late-night coaching sessions, the money being spent on Brad's program. Something felt really off about the whole situation. I also started paying more attention to Anna's schedule. Those coaching sessions were getting more frequent and always at weird times. She'd come home late smelling like expensive cologne, not the essential oils she usually reeked of. I'm not proud of this part, but I started checking our credit card statements more carefully. Found charges from hotels near where these business meetings were happening. Not exactly the kind of places you discuss soap marketing, if you know what I mean. But I didn't have solid proof yet. Part of me didn't want to believe it. Like maybe there was some explanation that wouldn't destroy our family. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, I got this text from Zoe that changed everything. Dad, Mom's with that business coach at the mall. They're kissing. Maya won't stop crying. Please come get us. That text from Zoe shattered my whole world. My daughters, 11 and 9 years old, had to watch their mom making out with another man in the middle of a public Starbucks. They were supposed to be having a fun day at the mall with their friend's mom. Instead, they got to see their mother destroy our family right in front of them. I rescheduled my afternoon hospital appointments and went to get them. The whole drive there, Maya kept asking, "Why was mommy kissing that man? How do you even answer that?" Zoe was just quiet, which was almost worse. The drive home felt like it lasted forever. All I kept thinking about was how I'd practically gift wrapped this nightmare. 3 grand to start her business, the fancy lighting setup for her soap photos, the inventory tracking system. I'd been so proud of supporting her dreams, of being that understanding husband who helped his wife find her passion. What a joke. I'd basically paid for front row seats to watch my marriage implode. Every encouraging word, every time I'd told her, "You can do this, honey," every dollar I'd invested, I might as well have been building the stage where she'd eventually perform her betrayal. The steering wheel creaked under my grip as I fought the urge to punch something. Some supportive husband I turned out to be. So busy patting myself on the back for helping her start a business that I didn't notice she was starting something else entirely with Brad. Sent the girls to their rooms when we got home. They didn't need to see what was coming next. They'd seen enough of their father's failures for one day. Then I waited, paced around our kitchen like a caged animal, staring at that damn text from Zoe over and over. 11 words that just nuked our entire family. Anna practically danced through the door around 7, looking like she just won the lottery. Her cheeks were flushed, hair slightly messy. Now I knew why. Wearing this new outfit I'd never seen before. She's rambling on about her amazing breakthrough day and how Brad helped her unlock her next level of abundance. Didn't even notice the kids weren't around. Not a single, "Where are the girls?" Just kept going on about her fantastic day of business development. I didn't say a word. Just stood there, arms shaking with rage as I held up my phone with Zoe's text. Watched her face do this whole performance. First this confused puppy look, head tilted like she's trying to decode hieroglyphics. Then this flash of panic when reality hit her. "Oh, Mike," she laughed, actually laughed. "The girls probably just misunderstood what they saw. You know how kids can be, always making up stories." I kept staring, my jaw clenched so tight I thought my teeth might shatter. "Honey, you don't understand," she tried again, switching to her spiritual guru voice. "Brad and I were just doing an intensive energy alignment session." "Energy alignment?" I exploded, my voice bouncing off the kitchen walls. "Is that what you call making out with your business coach at Starbucks? In front of our daughters?" She had the audacity to roll her eyes at me. Actually rolled her eyes like I was some backwards caveman who just didn't get it. "God, Mike, you're so traditional. This is a modern business relationship. Brad and I have a deep spiritual connection. I'm actually setting a powerful example for our girls about female empowerment and following your truth." Something in me snapped. Slammed my hand on the counter so hard everything rattled. My phone bounced and skidded across the granite. Pretty sure I heard something crack. Either the phone screen or my last nerve. Started fixing her hair like we were discussing the weather. "You're obviously the problem here, Mike. You've always held me back from reaching my full potential. You just don't understand the depth of what Brad and I are building." I've never wanted to flip a table more in my life. 12 years of marriage, and my wife was standing in our kitchen, preening in the microwave reflection, justifying cheating on me as some kind of feminist business strategy. All while our daughters were upstairs, their worlds shattered because mommy was too busy manifesting her truth to remember she had a family. "You're right," I said, my voice deadly calm. "I don't understand. I don't understand how you could do this to our kids. I don't understand how you could throw away our family for some con artist in a blue suit. And I really don't understand how you can stand there fixing your hair when your daughters are upstairs crying." She just kept primping, muttering about my negative energy and how I was blocking her abundance. That's when I knew. The woman I married was gone, replaced by whatever this spiritual soap CEO monster was. I called Jenny right after. Guess what? She knew. Had known for weeks. My own sister had been covering for Anna, telling me she was at business development workshops when she was really meeting Brad at hotels. Jenny's response? Anna's just living her truth and expanding her feminine energy? What the actual hell? After that fight with Anna, I drove around for hours. Couldn't go home. Couldn't face the kids. Couldn't process how my whole family was falling apart. When I finally got back, my parents' car was in the driveway. Great. Walking in, I found the typical drama setup. Anna at the kitchen table crying her fake tears, my mom hugging her like she's some wounded angel, Dad standing uselessly in the corner, and Jenny, oh Jenny, pacing around like some cut-rate lawyer about to deliver her closing argument. "How dare you?" Jenny launched at me the second I walked in. She actually pushed me, both hands, right in the chest. "You egotistical, controlling piece of crap. Anna's building an empire and you're trying to tear her down because you can't handle a strong woman. I caught her wrist before she could shove me again. Don't touch me, Jenny. Not after what your friend did to my kids today. Let go of your sister, Mom yelled, still hugging Anna. Your precious Anna was making out with her business coach at the mall, in front of my daughters, in front of your nieces, Jenny. Want to defend that? Jenny yanked her hands away. That's a business relationship. You wouldn't understand the deep connection entrepreneurs develop, just because your marriage is so primitive and traditional. Primitive? I was done. So done. You want to talk primitive? Let's talk about how you've been covering for her, making excuses when she misses the kids' events, lying about where she is. Tell me, Jenny, how many hotel rooms have you booked for their business meetings? Anna's head snapped up. Jenny went white. Bingo. Yeah, I know about that too. You think I don't see the receipts? The room charges? The business dinners? What kind of aunt helps destroy her niece's family? You're twisting everything, Jenny was screaming now. Just like David did to me. Don't you dare compare me to your ex? David cheated on you, or did you forget that part? Now you're helping Anna do the same thing to me? What happened to cheaters are scum, Jenny? Or does that only apply when it's happening to you? Mom jumped in. Don't talk to your sister like that. No, let him talk. Jenny stepped right up to my face. Let him show everyone exactly why Anna needed to find support elsewhere. You're pathetic, you know that? You're afraid from wife's success, can't support her dreams, can't ignore her screwing her business coach? Can't pretend it's normal when my kids have to see their mom with another man? Tell me, Jenny, what exactly should I be handling better? That's when we heard the crying upstairs. Maya. Jenny tried to push past me to the stairs, probably to play the caring aunt. I grabbed her arm. Don't you dare go near my kids. You lost that right when you helped their mother cheat on their father. They need their mother! Jenny yanked away from me. Their mother? Zoe's voice from the top of the stairs stopped everyone cold. Our mother doesn't care about us anymore. She cares about Brad, and Aunt Jenny helps her. We're not stupid. The look on Jenny's face, like someone had slapped her. Good. Hope it hurt. The rest of that night was a blur of more screaming, more accusations, more of Jenny's feminist buzzwords thrown around like confetti. But that moment, seeing Jenny realize the kids knew about her part in all this, almost worth it. A week passed. Anna was still at my parents', playing the victim. Then apparently she went to Jenny's place because Jenny was over every day trying to get the kids to visit their mom. They refused. That's when things got ugly. Instead of rushing to a lawyer, I played it smart. I moved money faster than Anna could say manifest abundance, got a new account set up, and started treating our family finances like the business she always wanted to run. Funny how she wasn't so excited about abundant entrepreneur energy when it meant actually paying for stuff. The look on my parents' faces when they tried calling me cruel for cutting off their precious spiritual entrepreneur? Pure gold. Mom was all, how could you do this to the mother of your children? Until I dropped all evidence folders on their kitchen table. Hotel receipts, coaching session payments, time-stamped photos. The whole 9 yards. My dad, who usually has the emotional range of a garden gnome, actually muttered, well, damn, when he saw the credit card statements. Coming from him, that's basically like a 3-hour monologue. Meanwhile, Anna's soap empire was crumbling faster than her crystal-infused bars in hot water. Remember all those manifestation posts about scaling to 7 figures? Yeah, turns out manifesting doesn't pay the bills. Who knew? Orders were piling up unfulfilled, customers were demanding refunds, and her spiritual business community was starting to see through the rose quartz-tinted glasses. Here's where I got creative. And by creative, I mean absolutely truthful. Started leaving honest reviews about her products online. No rage, no drama, just straight facts. Order number 127 never arrived. Multiple emails ignored. Requested refund. Or product quality inconsistent. Crystals fell out of soap after 1 use. Not as advertised. Simple, right? Turns out I wasn't the only one holding back. Once one person spoke up, the floodgates opened. It was like watching dominoes fall if the dominoes were overpriced soap bars. Those fancy yoga studios that used to stock her products? Gone. The Instagram influencers she paid to promote her sacred cleansing journey or whatever? Ghosted faster than a Tinder date who finds out you're not actually a Bitcoin millionaire. Her wholesale accounts dried up quicker than her soap in a steam room. Then Brad, our favorite tight suit-wearing guru, straight up vanished when the coaching fees stopped rolling in. Who would have thought a guy charging $15,000 to teach people how to sell soap wasn't actually interested in their spiritual journey? The moment Anna couldn't make the payments, he was gone. No more late-night strategy sessions, no more emergency business meetings, no more nothing. The best part in all that is, I didn't have to do anything except sit back and watch. No screaming, no fighting, just the sweet sound of reality finally catching up with delusion. Jenny tried to do damage control, bless her heart. She was posting these long-winded Instagram captions about weathering storms and rising from adversity faster than Anna could burn sage. But here's the thing about reality. It doesn't care about your hashtags. Anna couldn't even keep her phone on anymore. Remember how she used to be glued to it, always connecting with her audience and building her community? Now she couldn't even afford the bill. Jenny wasn't doing much better. Turns out covering for your friend's affair and enabling her business fantasies doesn't actually pay the bills. Who knew? The landlord finally kicked them both out when the rent checks bounced harder than their abundance mindset off actual business reality. Want to know the definition of karma? Watching two boss babes realize their manifestation journals won't actually manifest rent money. With nowhere else to go, I heard that Anna, our spiritual soap queen, shows up at her parents' doorstep with all her CEO energy deflated like a week-old balloon. Her parents, who had been her biggest cheerleaders in this whole mess, had finally seen enough receipts and evidence to realize their daughter wasn't exactly living her authentic truth, unless that truth involved hotel rooms with Brad. They actually turned her away. And let me tell you, watching my former in-laws choose reality over their daughter's BS was like watching pigs fly while riding unicorns. But here's where it gets really good. Jenny, the original feminine power guru who started this whole mess, well, she went crawling back to her ex. Yeah, that ex. The same guy she spent 3 years calling every name in the book on Instagram. The dude she claimed was dimming her light and suppressing her feminine energy. Suddenly, he was her stable foundation and proof that love conquers all. The mental gymnastics Jenny pulled to justify this move would have won her Olympic gold. Her Instagram went from "men are trash" to "sometimes the universe brings people back together for a reason," faster than you can say hypocrite. She even had the audacity to post a 12-part series about forgiveness and growth, while conveniently forgetting all those posts about how her ex was basically Satan in business. Casual. Meanwhile, Anna ended up in this tiny one-bedroom apartment that looked like a soap warehouse had a baby with a crystal shop. Boxes of unsold inventory everywhere. We're talking floor-to-ceiling stacks of spiritual soap that nobody wanted. Those same products she swore would make her millions were now basically really expensive air fresheners. The irony of her being surrounded by cleaning products while her life was this messy? Chef's kiss. After a month, I found out that these two brilliant minds decided their next move should be starting a spiritual coaching business. Because apparently, the best time to start coaching others is right after you've spectacularly failed at everything yourself. Shockingly, nobody was buying what they were selling anymore. Turns out when people watch you crash and burn your soap empire, they're not super keen on paying you for life advice. Their social media engagement dropped faster than their credibility, which was already somewhere in the Earth's core at this point. While all this was going down, I was focused on one thing: getting legally untangled from this mess and focusing on my kids. Got myself the kind of lawyer who eats entrepreneur's energy for breakfast. The evidence pile I handed him was thicker than Anna's manifestation journal. Every bank statement, every delusional business expense, all meticulously documented. You should have seen Anna trying to play the victim in court. She pulled out every stop. Tears on command. Stories about sacrificing her successful marketing career for our family, conveniently forgetting she left that job to sell magical soap. Claims about how she deserved spousal support because she was finding herself. My lawyer shut that down faster than Brad, shut down her calls when the money ran out. Then came the custody battle, or should I say, attempted custody battle. Anna tried pushing for joint custody, probably thinking she could secure some child support to fund her next spiritual venture. But here's the thing about kids. They see right through BS. Zoe and Maya, bless their hearts, stood up in court and basically said, "Thanks but no thanks" to living with mom full-time. Watching their faces as they told the truth about all the missed events, the neglect, the Brad situation, that was harder than watching the soap empire crumble. The judge's verdict was sweeter than validation from your Reddit community. I got primary custody. Anna got supervised visitation. Turns out courts aren't super impressed by parents who choose business coaching sessions over sick kids. And the financial settlement? Let's just say Anna's abundance didn't translate to actual assets. The moment those papers were signed, I swear I lost 150 pounds of dead weight instantly. Funny how letting go of a soap entrepreneur can do that to you. It's been about a month since the divorce was finalized. I'd settled into a pretty good routine with the kids. Zoe joined the school basketball team. Turns out when your mom actually shows up to games, you feel like playing more. And Maya's grades were back up since someone was actually checking her homework again. The house smelled like normal house stuff instead of whatever the hell divine prosperity sage and lavender was supposed to be. Then one random Tuesday night, around 9 p.m., there's this knock at my door. Not like a normal knock, more like that sad, pathetic kind of knock that screams, "I've hit rock bottom and kept digging." I open up, and there's Anna, looking like she'd just lost a fight with a Sephora store and a self-help bookshelf. Her woman power suit was replaced with yoga pants that had definitely seen better days. And her abundant entrepreneur makeup was looking more raccoon after an all-nighter. The transformation from spiritual business goddess to reality hit me like a truck was almost artistic. "Mike," she sniffled, trying to make her voice do that thing that used to work on me. "I don't want to be an entrepreneur anymore." I burst out laughing. Like, congratulations on finally catching up to what literally everyone else knew months ago? But I just stood there, wondering if Mercury was in Gatorade or whatever she used to blame things on. Oh? I couldn't resist. So running an empire isn't your life's purpose anymore? What happened to the strong, independent woman vibe? She tried to force this sad little smile, like we were sharing some inside joke about the whole thing. But here's the thing. It's only funny when both people are laughing. And I definitely wasn't laughing. I messed up, she admitted, her voice cracking like her business model. I got caught up in it all, and I held up my hand. The same hand that used to help her package soap, that used to wipe our kids' tears when they couldn't understand why mommy missed another school event. Save it. You didn't just mess up. You burned everything down. And you didn't just hurt me. You hurt our kids. Her face did this thing where it kind of crumbled, like one of her handmade soap bars left in the rain. I don't know what to do anymore. I got flashbacks of all those nights I sat up with Maya while she cried because her mom was too busy aligning her business chakras to read her a bedtime story. All those times Zoe's face fell when Anna's seat was empty at her games because she had another emergency strategy session with Brad. "You figure it out," I said, stepping back. "That's what CEOs do, right?" And I shut the door. Through the grapevine, aka my mom who still talks to everyone, I heard Jenny's still with her ex, probably writing LinkedIn posts about coming full circle and divine timing or whatever. My parents and I are kind of okay now. We do Sunday dinners. But there's this unspoken thing where we all pretend the last year didn't happen. Some trust just doesn't grow back, you know? Me? I'm doing pretty good. Started dating a bit. Nothing serious. Just coffee meets with normal women who don't think crystals can fix everything. Zoe and Maya are thriving. Turns out kids do better when their parent actually parents. Who knew? The garage is finally clear of all that soap inventory. Donated most of it to a homeless shelter. But I kept one bar. It sits on my desk at work. This weird purple thing with a crystal stuck in it. Whenever I have a rough day, I look at it and think, well, at least I'm not trying to build a spiritual soap empire. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's just living well and keeping one ridiculous soap bar as a reminder that reality always wins in the end, even against the strongest, abundant CEO energy. And that, Reddit, is how my marriage dissolved faster than a soap bar in hot water. At least we can say it was a clean break, right? Badum-tsi, I'll see myself out. Story 6. My fiancé wanted a breakup. She said her besties think she's out of my league and deserves better than a welder. When her backup plan failed, she wanted to get back together. Hey everyone. Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Sup Reddit. My fiancé dropped this bomb out of the blue. We'd planned our future for years, and I thought we were building something real. So I respected her choice and walked out of her life. Few months later, I had a dangerous surgery, and she actually visited, demanding my help and wanting to get back together. Here's what went down. I'm 25 male, been with my ex-fiancée Kayla, 24 female, for 6 years total, engaged for the last 8 months. I work as a certified welder at a local fabrication shop. Good money, steady work, and I actually build things that matter. Kayla works at a high-end salon downtown, one of those places that charges $200 for a haircut. Kayla's attractive, really attractive, the kind of woman who gets double takes at the grocery store and free drinks at bars she doesn't even want. I'm a regular guy who knows his way around a MIG torch and can fix most things that break. Not ugly, but definitely not model material. We worked because we fit together in ways that mattered. We met senior year when she was dating Brad Mitchell, the quarterback who peaked in high school and thought his jersey number made him special. I was the shop class guy who actually knew how to fix her beat-up car when it died in the school parking lot. Brad was too busy worrying about his hair getting messed up to get his hands dirty. Took me about 20 minutes to diagnose a bad alternator, and another hour that weekend to replace it for the cost of parts. That's how it started. She'd text me when something broke. I'd fix it. We'd talk while I worked. She'd laugh at my jokes. And just like that, we clicked. The engagement happened last July during a camping trip we'd been planning for months. Just us, a campfire, and the ring I'd been saving for since February. 2-carat diamond, white gold setting, cost me 12 weeks of overtime, but worth every hour when I saw her face. We set the date for October the following year, gave ourselves plenty of time to save money and plan properly. My best friend Leo was the first person I called after Kayla said yes. Dude is your best mechanic and has zero filter when it comes to giving relationship advice. About damn time, he said when I told him. I was starting to think you were going to propose to your welding torch instead. Everything felt solid for months. We found a venue, booked a photographer, started talking about honeymoon destinations. Kayla would show me pictures of dresses she liked. I'd pretend to have opinions about flowers and centerpieces. Everything was good. The first crack appeared this past January, when Kayla started attending this new fitness class downtown. Some trendy Pilates place that cost more per month than most people spend on groceries. She'd been wanting to get more into fitness after the holidays, and I supported it completely. The problem wasn't the fitness class. The problem was the women she met there. Kayla would come home with stories about her new workout friends. Jessica, married to a corporate lawyer, drives a BMW, just got back from Cabo. Sarah, dating a cardiologist, shopping for engagement rings in the $50,000 range. Amanda, recently divorced, getting $8,000 monthly in spousal support and exploring her options. At first, these were just random stories. Kayla would mention how Jessica bought a $400 purse without thinking about it, or how Sarah's boyfriend surprised her with a weekend in Napa. I listened, made appropriate comments, didn't think much of it. Why would I? Wrong move. But the story started changing tone around late February. Instead of just mentioning what these women did, Kayla started adding commentary. How Jessica thought it was cute that Kayla was getting married so young. How Sarah couldn't understand why Kayla would settle down when she had so many options. How Amanda kept saying Kayla was wasting her prime years on one guy. The first time Kayla repeated one of these comments to me, I kept it simple. These women don't know us. What matters is what we want. She agreed, said they were just being nosy, promised she wouldn't let their opinions get to her. But the comments kept coming, and they kept getting more specific. March was when things got weird. She started making small criticisms about stuff that had never bothered her before. My work clothes were really dirty when I picked her up from the salon. Could I maybe change before we went out to dinner? My truck was kind of loud. Had I thought about getting something newer? Maybe I should consider expanding my career goals since we were getting married soon. None of these were fights. Kayla wasn't being aggressive or mean, but each comment felt like a tiny test, like she was checking to see how I'd react to suggestions for improvement. I kept my responses measured. I explained that work clothes get dirty because I do actual work. I pointed out that my truck was paid off and reliable. I mentioned that my career goals included becoming a certified underwater welder, which would double my income within 2 years. She would always back down when I pushed back, but I could see her processing my responses differently than she used to, like she was comparing them to some external standard I wasn't aware of. The breaking point came in early April. We were supposed to meet her parents for dinner at their house. Casual Sunday family meal, nothing formal. I'd been working on a rush job all weekend, trying to finish structural repairs on a warehouse before the Monday deadline. The work ran long, and I showed up at Kayla's apartment 20 minutes late, still in my work clothes, small amount of metal dust on my hands. Kayla took one look at me and her whole expression changed. Seriously? You're going to my parents' house like that? I looked down at myself. Clean jeans, work shirt with the company logo, steel-toed boots. A little dust, sure, but nothing offensive. I'm coming straight from work. Your parents have seen me in work clothes before. That was different. This is dinner. Can't you at least change? Kayla, I'm 20 minutes late already. Your parents aren't going to care what I'm wearing. She stood there for a full 30 seconds, just staring at me like I'd said something in a foreign language. Then she grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Fine, but this is embarrassing. That word hit differently than the previous comments. Not disappointed or frustrated, embarrassed. Like being seen with me was something she had to apologize for. The dinner was awkward as hell. Kayla barely spoke. She checking her phone, seemed distracted. Her parents tried to include me in conversation about the wedding, but Kayla kept giving short answers and changing the subject. When her dad asked about my underwater welding certification, she actually rolled her eyes. On the drive back to her place, I tried to address what had happened. You want to tell me what that was about? Nothing. I'm just tired. Kayla, you acted like you were ashamed to be there with me. I wasn't ashamed. I wish you'd made more effort. More effort to what? Be someone I'm not? She didn't answer that question, just stared out the window until we got to her apartment. The next day, I called Leo to vent about the whole situation. What's next? She gonna be mad that your hands are too rough from building things that don't collapse? April and May were like watching a slow-motion car crash. Kayla didn't suddenly become a different person. The changes were gradual, almost subtle, but consistent enough that I could feel something shifting beneath us. The fitness class group became her primary social circle almost overnight. She'd go to dinner with them twice a week, weekend brunches, shopping trips to expensive stores I'd never heard of. When I asked to meet these women who were taking up so much of her time, she always had an excuse. They were busy, the timing wasn't right, maybe next time. Meanwhile, she started declining invitations to hang out with our mutual friends. Game nights with my buddies became not really her thing anymore. Double dates with couples we'd known for years suddenly felt too young for where she was in life. She stopped coming to my company barbecues and family gatherings, claiming work was too busy or she had plans with her fitness friends. Leo was the first to call it out directly during a group hangout in late April. Where's Kayla tonight? Our friend Mike asked. Wine tasting with her fitness friends, I said. Leo looked up from his pool shot. Again? What is this, the fourth weekend in a row? Either those women are alcoholics or Kayla's training to become a sommelier. The criticism became more frequent and more pointed. My apartment was pretty basic. Had I thought about upgrading? My weekend clothes were very casual. Maybe I should invest in some nicer shirts? My idea of a good date night, dinner at a local restaurant followed by a movie, was kind of routine compared to what other couples were doing. Each criticism came with a suggestion for improvement, always framed as helpful advice rather than complaints. Kayla wasn't being mean about it, which somehow made it worse. She was treating me like a project that needed work. I started paying attention to the specific language she used. Words like ambitious, sophisticated, and professional came up constantly in our conversations, always in contrast to things about our life together. Other men were ambitious. I was comfortable where I was. Her new friends were sophisticated. Our old crowd was kind of immature. Her co-workers' boyfriends had professional careers. I had just a job. During one of our regular beer nights in May, I shared some of Kayla's recent comments with Leo. Wait, hold up, Leo said, nearly choking on his drink. She said you have just a job? Dude, what does Jessica do again? Besides spend her husband's money on yoga pants? The sex life took a hit too. Kayla became less interested, more distant, like her mind was somewhere else even when we were together. She started working longer hours at the salon, picking up extra clients on weekends. When I suggested we spend more time together, she'd remind me how important it was for her to focus on her career and build her network. In May, things escalated. She started making direct comparisons between me and other men. Jessica's husband had just gotten a promotion at his law firm. Sarah's boyfriend was looking at houses in the expensive part of town. Amanda was dating a guy who owned his own business and drove a Tesla. I'm not saying you should be like them, Kayla would say after sharing these stories. I'm just saying it's interesting how some people really go after what they want. I tried addressing this directly several times. Asked her if she was unhappy with our relationship, if there was something specific she needed from me, if we should postpone the wedding until we worked through whatever was happening. Each time, she'd deny there was a problem, say she loved me exactly as I was, then follow up with another suggestion for how I could improve myself. The underwater welding certification became a constant topic. When was I starting the program? How much more money would I make? Would I consider moving somewhere with more opportunities? She had done research on underwater welders' salaries and was convinced this was my ticket to reaching my potential. The breaking point came in late May, during a conversation about our wedding budget. We'd been planning a nice but reasonable celebration, about $20,000 total, split between our families and our savings. Not fancy, but definitely not cheap either. Kayla brought up how Jessica's wedding had cost $80,000 and looked like something out of a magazine. How Sarah was already planning a $60,000 engagement party. How Amanda's divorce settlement meant she could afford whatever she wanted for her next wedding. I'm not saying we need to spend that much, Kayla said. But don't you think we should consider what we're capable of if we really tried? What do you mean? I mean, if you got serious about expanding your career options, if I took on more high-end clients, maybe we could have the kind of wedding that actually represents who we want to be. Who do we want to be, Kayla? She couldn't answer that question directly. Instead, she showed me photos from Jessica's wedding on her phone. The venue, the flowers, the dress, the photographer. Everything looked expensive. Don't you think this is beautiful? It's nice, but it's not us. How do you know what's us? Maybe we've been thinking too small. Kayla wasn't just getting advice from her fitness class friends. She was getting a complete worldview overhaul. These women had convinced her that settling down young meant missing out on opportunities, that marrying someone in a blue-collar job meant accepting a limited future. June was when I stopped trying to save something that was already dead. The final month of our relationship felt like living with a stranger who happened to look like my fiancé. Kayla would come home from her fitness class or dinners with her new friends and immediately start scrolling through social media, showing me pictures of places she wanted to visit, restaurants she wanted to try, experiences she wanted to have. All of them expensive, all of them requiring a lifestyle we didn't have. Look at this place in Napa that Sarah went to. Isn't it amazing? Looks nice. We should plan a trip like this. Kayla, that's a $500 a night resort. So, other people our age manage to afford nice things. These conversations became daily occurrences. Work became my refuge. I'd started the underwater welding certification program in early May, attending classes 3 nights a week after my regular shifts. The program was intense. Technical diving, underwater cutting techniques, safety protocols that could save your life 60 feet below the surface. I loved every minute of it. Kayla had initially been supportive of the certification, mainly because she'd researched the salary potential. But as the program demanded more of my time and energy, she became resentful. I was always studying, or too tired to go out, or not prioritizing our relationship. She was spending 4 nights a week with her fitness friends and working extra hours to afford her new lifestyle. But my 3 nights of classes were somehow a problem. Leo pointed out the obvious during one of our study sessions at his shop. Let me understand this. She's mad that you're studying to make more money, which is what she wants. But she's not mad about spending her own money on classes about how to breathe better while stretching? That makes perfect sense. In late June, things came to a head during what should have been a simple conversation about our shared calendar. She wanted to attend a wine tasting event with her friends the same weekend we'd planned to visit my parents. When I pointed out the conflict, she suggested we reschedule the family visit. It's not like we don't see your parents all the time. Kayla, we haven't seen them since Easter, and we made these plans 2 months ago. I know, but this wine thing is important. For what? For my career. These women know people in the beauty industry. Jessica's husband has connections at some major cosmetics companies. I stared at her. You're a hairstylist, not a cosmetics executive. Maybe I could be. Maybe I'm thinking bigger than just cutting hair for the rest of my life. She wasn't just dissatisfied with our relationship. She was dissatisfied with herself, with her choices, with the life she'd built before meeting her new friends. The wine tasting became a symbol of everything wrong between us. Kayla went, despite my pointing out how it conflicted with our family plans. She came home 3 hours late, slightly tipsy, and full of stories about the amazing people she'd met. You should have come with me. You would have learned so much about what successful people actually do with their weekends. I was visiting my parents like we planned. Right, but sometimes you have to choose between being comfortable and being ambitious. Leo's reaction when I told him about this exchange was priceless. So, drinking overpriced wine with strangers is ambitious, but visiting the people who raised you is being comfortable? I'd love to see these women try to change a tire or balance a checkbook. Real ambitious stuff. July was decision time. Decision. She had started making comments about postponing the wedding. Not canceling it, just pushing it back a year or two while we figured out our direction. She wanted time to make sure we were building the right foundation for our future. I told her we needed to make a decision, move forward with the wedding as planned, or call it off entirely. Why does it have to be all or nothing? Why can't we just take some time to grow as individuals? Because we're either building something together or we're not, Kayla. There's no middle ground. That's very black and white thinking. Yeah, it is, because commitment is black and white. Kayla couldn't handle that level of directness. She'd gotten used to having conversations where everything was negotiable, where every decision could be delayed or revised based on new information. We didn't fight about it. We didn't have screaming matches or throw things at each other. We just slowly stopped functioning as a couple. Kayla would make plans without consulting me. I'd focus on work and my certification program. We'd go days without having a real conversation, weeks without talking about anything more significant than whose turn it was to pick up groceries. By early August, we were basically roommates who happened to be engaged. We'd see each other for an hour in the evening, make small talk about our days, then go to bed at different times. The end came on a Tuesday night in mid-August. She had been at another dinner with her friends and came home around 10 p.m. I was studying for my final certification exam, spread out at the kitchen table with textbooks and practice tests. She sat down across from me and just watched me work for about 10 minutes before speaking. Do you ever think about what our life is going to look like in 5 years? I looked up from my books. I think about it all the time. What do you see? A house with a workshop in the garage. Maybe some kids. Good work that pays well and keeps me interested. Time with family and friends who matter. Building something that lasts. She nodded slowly. That sounds nice. But I don't think that's enough for me anymore. What would be enough? I don't know yet. That's the problem. Kayla, you can't plan a marriage around hypothetical better options. I'm not talking about other people. I'm talking about potential I didn't know I had. Potential to do what? I think we should talk about taking a break, she said finally. There's no such thing as taking a break from an engagement, Kayla. We're either getting married or we're not. Why does everything have to be so absolute with you? Because that's how commitment works. That conversation lasted another hour, covering the same ground we'd been circling for weeks. Kayla wanted flexibility, options, time to explore her potential. I wanted a partner who was sure about choosing me, sure about building our life together, sure about our future. We couldn't give each other what we wanted, so we had to end. The actual breakup happened 3 days later, on a Friday evening in August. We'd both had time to think about our Tuesday conversation, and neither of us had changed positions. Kayla still wanted space to figure things out. I still believed that being engaged meant we'd already figured out the important stuff. Kayla had spent those 3 days talking to her fitness friends about our relationship problems. When she came home Friday night, she had the confident air of someone who'd received a lot of supportive advice about making a difficult but necessary decision. I've been thinking about what we talked about, she said, like she was about to deliver a presentation. And I think we want different things right now. What do I want that you don't want? You want everything to stay exactly the same. You want to get married and have the same life we've always had, just with rings and a certificate. I want to grow. I want to challenge myself. That was the most honest thing she'd said in months. All right then, I said. Let's call it off. I think Kayla expected more of a fight. More attempts to convince her to stay. More negotiations about terms and timelines. When I accepted her decision immediately, she seemed almost disappointed. Just like that? Kayla, you just told me you don't think you can grow as a person while married to me. What exactly am I supposed to argue with? I didn't say it like that. Yes, you did. You said you can't achieve what you're capable of achieving if we get married, which means you think I'm holding you back. I think the relationship is holding us both back. From what? Again, she couldn't give me a specific answer. Just vague references to potential and growth and possibilities she hadn't explored yet. The ring came off without drama. Kayla pulled it off her finger and set it on the coffee table between us, like she was returning a library book. I picked it up and put it in my pocket. What about the wedding deposits? She asked. I'll handle the cancellations. You can deal with your dress. What about our friends? They're adults. They'll figure it out. We spent the next hour working through logistics. Kayla would stay in her apartment. I'd move my stuff out over the weekend. We'd split up our shared possessions. Not much since we'd never officially lived together. We'd tell our families separately rather than making joint announcements. The whole conversation was remarkably civilized. I packed my belongings that weekend, while Kayla was out with her friends. Didn't take long since I'd always maintained my own apartment. Clothes, some books, a few kitchen items I'd brought over, my tools that I kept in her garage. Everything fit in my truck in 2 trips. Left her keys on the kitchen counter along with a note thanking her for 6 years together and wishing her well. Didn't see the point in a dramatic goodbye scene when we'd already said everything that needed saying. The hardest part was calling her parents. These people had been planning to become my in-laws for 8 months. I gave them the basics. They were disappointed. Her little sister Emma took it harder. She'd been excited about being a bridesmaid, had already picked out her dress. I told her sometimes adults realize they're not as compatible as they thought, and that it was better to figure that out before getting married, rather than after. My own parents were relieved, which surprised me until they explained they'd been worried about Kayla's attitude changes over the past few months. Apparently, I hadn't been hiding my frustration as well as I thought. Most of our mutual friends weren't shocked either. A few mentioned they'd noticed Kayla seemed different lately, more critical and less interested in group activities. The only real surprise was how quickly Kayla moved on. Within 2 weeks, she was posting pictures from expensive restaurants and weekend trips with her fitness friends. Her social media presence completely changed. Less couple photos and family events, more solo shots and group pictures with her new crowd. I stayed off social media entirely for the first month. Didn't need to see updates about Kayla's new life or explanations about why our relationship had ended. Leo was the first person to check on me after the breakup. He showed up at my apartment with a case of drinks and his trademark subtle approach to emotional support. So, Kayla's finally free to explore her full potential, he said, cracking open a bottle. I give it 3 months before she's texting you about how yoga class didn't prepare her for the real world. September through November was about rebuilding my life as a single person and focusing on the goals I'd set before Kayla decided our relationship was holding her back. I finished my underwater welding certification in early October, passing all the technical and practical exams on the first try. The program had been challenging, but I genuinely enjoyed the technical aspects and the problem-solving required for underwater repairs. Within a week of getting certified, I had 3 job offers. It's specialized work, and there aren't many people qualified to do it safely. I chose a company that handles infrastructure repairs for bridges, dams, and offshore platforms across the Southeast. The money was exactly what I'd hoped for. My first contract was a bridge inspection and repair project that paid $2,800 for a weekend's work. Not bad for someone who supposedly wasn't ambitious enough. I moved to a better apartment in November. 2 bedrooms, garage space for my truck and equipment, workshop area for side projects. Nothing fancy, but comfortable and functional. Started saving for a down payment on a house, figuring I'd be ready to buy something within 2 years. Work kept me busy and satisfied. The regular fabrication job provided steady income and interesting projects. The underwater contracts were both challenging and lucrative. I was learning constantly, solving problems I'd never encountered before, building skills that few people possessed. I also started hitting the gym consistently for the first time since high school. Not because I was trying to prove anything, but because the underwater work required serious physical conditioning. Dating wasn't a priority, but I wasn't actively avoiding it either. Went out with a few women I met through friends or work connections. Nothing serious, just casual dinners and movies. It felt good to spend time with people who were interested in me rather than trying to convince me to become someone else. Through mutual friends, I heard occasional updates about Kayla. She was still working at the salon but taking additional classes in some kind of advanced beauty technique. Still hanging out with her fitness friends, though apparently the group dynamics were getting complicated. Something about money and competing for attention from the same social circles. In November, I ran into Jessica at a coffee shop downtown. One of Kayla's fitness friends, the lawyer's wife who drove the BMW and went to Cabo. She recognized me and came over to say hello. How are you doing? Kayla mentioned you guys had decided to take different paths. I'm doing well. Work's going great. Staying busy. That's good to hear. Kayla said you were getting into some kind of specialized welding? Underwater welding. Just finished certification. Jessica looked genuinely interested. That sounds fascinating, and probably very well paying. It's good work. I bet. My husband has clients in the maritime industry. They're always complaining about how hard it is to find qualified underwater welders. We talked for a few more minutes about work and mutual acquaintances. Jessica was polite and seemed genuinely friendly, which made me wonder how much influence she'd actually had on Kayla's decision-making. Maybe Kayla had been hearing what she wanted to hear rather than getting the direct advice she claimed. At the end of our conversation, Jessica said something interesting. For what it's worth, I always thought you and Kayla were good together. Sometimes people get restless and think the grass is greener somewhere else. December brought my first major underwater contract, a dam repair project that would take 3 weeks and pay more than I used to make in 6 months at the regular fabrication job. I loved every minute of it. The project team was small, just 5 guys, all specialists in different aspects of underwater construction. We worked efficiently, trusted each other's expertise, and took pride in solving problems that most people couldn't even understand. Between regular work and underwater contracts, I was making more money than I'd ever imagined. I started thinking about buying a house earlier than planned. With my income trajectory and the money I'd saved, I could afford something substantial. Leo helped me look at houses during weekends in December. His commentary on my improved financial situation was typically understated. So you're making 6 figures doing something most people can't even pronounce? And Kayla thinks you needed more ambition? I'm starting to think those fitness classes affected more than just her flexibility. January brought the headaches. At first, just occasional sharp pain behind my left eye, usually when I was working in awkward positions or dealing with complex underwater repairs. I figured it was occupational. Neck strain from wearing heavy diving equipment, eye strain from working in low visibility conditions, maybe some sinus issues from pressure changes. The headaches got more frequent through February and more intense. Not constant pain, but sudden, sharp episodes that would leave me dizzy and disoriented for several minutes. I started keeping ibuprofen in my truck and taking breaks more often during long work sessions. The vision problem started in early March. At first, it only lasted a few seconds, but the episodes became longer and more frequent. When I started having trouble focusing during precision welding work, I knew something was seriously wrong. You can't afford concentration lapses when you're working with cutting torches in confined spaces. Made an appointment with my regular doctor in late March. He asked about my symptoms, did some basic tests, and immediately referred me to a neurologist. That was my first indication this wasn't just job-related stress or eye strain. The neurologist ordered a series of tests: MRI scans, blood work, cognitive assessments. Professional, but clearly concerned about what the initial scans were showing. Started asking questions about family medical history and whether I'd experienced any head injuries. While waiting for test results, I tried to maintain normal routines, kept working regular fabrication jobs, but turned down underwater contracts until I knew what was going on. Leo was the one who drove me to get the test results. The seizure happened on a Saturday morning in early April. I was at Home Depot picking up materials for a side project when everything went sideways. One second I was comparing prices on copper fittings. The next second I was on the ground with paramedics, asking me basic questions I couldn't answer. I don't remember the seizure itself, just the confusion afterward. The paramedic said witnesses described about 90 seconds of convulsions before I gradually regained consciousness. Emergency room. More tests, more doctors with increasingly serious expressions. Finally, a neurosurgeon sat me down with scan results that showed exactly why I'd been having problems. Brain tumor. Glioma, about the size of a walnut, located in an area that controlled vision and motor coordination. Explained the headaches, the vision problems, and the seizure. Surgery was possible, but it would be complex and carry significant risks. Sometimes life throws unexpected challenges, and you either handle them professionally or you don't. I chose to handle it professionally. The surgeon was optimistic about complete removal, but honest about potential complications. Brain surgery isn't like fixing a welding error. You can't just grind out the bad section and start over. We scheduled the operation for the following Tuesday and started preparing for a long recovery period. My boss at the fabrication shop was incredibly supportive, held my position, coordinated with insurance, made sure I understood the job would be there when I was ready. The underwater welding company was equally accommodating. They knew skilled people were rare and weren't going anywhere. Word got around quickly in our small town. Most of my friends started organizing visits and support. My parents drove down from 2 states away. What I didn't expect was hearing from Kayla. Leo was with me when the nurse mentioned that someone named Kayla had called asking about visiting hours. "Oh, hell no," Leo said immediately. "She disappears for 8 months and now wants to show up because you're in the hospital? What's next? She gonna bring flowers and an apology letter?" Kayla showed up at the hospital on Saturday, 3 days before my scheduled surgery. I was reviewing preoperative instructions when she walked into my room, looking like she'd been crying, but with something desperate in her eyes that had nothing to do with concern for my health. "I heard what happened. How are you feeling?" "I'm fine. Surgery's Tuesday, then recovery." She sat down without being invited and started with what seemed like genuine small talk. Asked about the doctors, the procedure, my parents' visit. After about 10 minutes of carefully neutral conversation, she shifted to what felt like the real reason for her visit. "Listen, I know the timing isn't great, but I really need to talk to someone I trust about some problems I'm having." There it was. Not, "I'm sorry about your diagnosis, just, I need something from you." "You should leave," I told her directly. "Please, just hear me out. I made some serious mistakes and I don't know what to do. Kayla, I'm having brain surgery in 3 days. I don't want to hear about your problems." Her concerned act dropped immediately, replaced by the entitled attitude I remembered from our breakup. "Fine, but I'm in real trouble here. That guy I was dating turned out to be married, and his wife is trying to destroy my life. And my friends convinced me to invest in some real estate deals that turned out to be completely fake. And now I owe almost $300,000. I just stared at her. "And you thought I'd care about this because we were together for 6 years. Because you know me better than anyone. Because I lost my job and I can't make rent and everyone I thought I could trust disappeared. Sounds like you got exactly what you were looking for." What's that supposed to mean? You wanted to explore your potential, date more ambitious people, see what you were capable of achieving? How's that working out? Kayla's voice started rising, getting more desperate and aggressive. "I know I made mistakes, okay? I know I said things I shouldn't have said, but I thought you'd be mature enough to help someone who needs it." "Help with what? Cleaning up the mess you made by deciding I wasn't good enough for you?" I pressed the call button for the nurse. Kayla saw what I was doing and completely lost control. You can't be serious right now. I'm telling you I need help and you're calling security? Ma'am, you need to lower your voice, the nurse said as she entered the room. This is ridiculous. We were engaged. We were going to get married. You can't just throw away 6 years because I made one mistake. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the room, the nurse said firmly. Two security guards appeared in the doorway as Kayla became increasingly hysterical. I still love you. I still care about you. Everything I said was stupid, and I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Ma'am, we need you to come with us, one of the guards said. You're making a huge mistake. I'm the best thing that ever happened to you. You'll regret this. As security escorted her out, she kept yelling down the hallway about how I was being unreasonable and how she was just trying to make things right. The nurse shook her head and asked if I was okay. Never been better, I told her honestly. Leo showed up about an hour after the Kayla incident, carrying coffee and wearing the expression of someone who'd heard the whole story from the nurses. I filled him in on Kayla's surprise visit and her request for help with her problems. So, Leo said when I finished, she dates a married guy, gets scammed by her friends, loses her job, and then decides to come beg for help from the man she dumped for not being ambitious enough? That's like setting your house on fire and then asking the fire department for a loan. The surgery went perfectly. 8.5 hours, but the surgeon achieved complete tumor removal with clean margins and no complications. Recovery was textbook. 10 days in the hospital, then 6 weeks at my parents' house while I regained full strength and coordination. Leo visited me almost daily during recovery, bringing updates from work and increasingly ridiculous stories about what he'd been telling people about my condition. I told your neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, that they had to replace part of your brain with a welding torch, he said during one visit. She believed it for about 30 seconds until I mentioned the flame would interfere with your sleep. During recovery, I heard updates about Kayla's situation through Emma, who would visit occasionally to check on my progress. The full scope of Kayla's poor decision-making was actually worse than what she'd admitted in the hospital. The married man she'd been dating wasn't just cheating on his wife. He'd been using Kayla and several other women to help launder money through fraudulent real estate investments. His wife wasn't just angry about the affair. She was cooperating with federal investigators building a case against her husband's business activities. Kayla wasn't just a victim of the real estate scam. She was potentially facing criminal charges as an unwitting accomplice. The $300,000 debt was real, but she also owed back taxes on unreported income from the fake investments. The IRS had frozen her bank accounts while they investigated her involvement. The salon had fired her not just because of the affair drama, but because they'd discovered she'd been overcharging clients for services and pocketing the difference. Her fancy friends hadn't just disappeared when her money problems started. They'd actively distanced themselves to avoid being associated with the criminal investigation. But here's the most satisfying part. Kayla's parents refused to bail her out. After learning about how she'd treated me and hearing about her entitled hospital meltdown from Emma, they decided their daughter needed to face the consequences. She ended up having to declare bankruptcy, lost her apartment, and moved back in with a distant aunt in another state. The criminal investigation followed her there, and she was eventually charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, though she ultimately pled down to a misdemeanor with restitution requirements. By August, I was back to full-time work, including underwater contracts. The doctors had cleared me completely. No cognitive impairment, no motor coordination issues, no restrictions on my activities. I found the engagement ring in my safe while organizing my equipment, decided to sell it, and put the money toward a down payment on a house. No point keeping reminders of people who don't exist anymore.